Rich. Alright, hello guys. We should be back. For real this time. Without
Just
any
a few
echo.
moments, we're checking to make sure the stream is live. It says it's live here to us, and we got the CSL splash screen. Let me go back into XSplit really quickly, make sure we're at the right settings here. Is it in the game yet? It's in the game? Alright, it's looking good. Is there an echo?
Yeah.
Testing echo.
Any echo powers?
It looks like the audio is going pretty well too. Why don't we get in the game, see if the players are ready. Enough of this delays. Let's get into game number 2.
Yeah! Victory! I think we got it. I think we got it, guys.
You not seeing it out there?
Hold on. Alright, you guys good?
Yeah.
We have 19 people watching, but I think we've got it.
Of course, when you let's get into the game and see if.
We should close this. We should close that. We should close that. Yeah. Wait, what the fuck?
No, you want to just keep it open. All right. Anyways, on to the game now.
I think we are ready.
These players have been very patient with us. See if they're set up. Terran Amir looks like it's going to be on Gemini. And when we get in the game, we can actually scroll around and show you a little bit about the map. This is actually a really, really cool map. It looks like one of them is ready. Ask, see if PengWin's ready as well. He says he is.
Looks like we are ready, except I'm not the host.
Tell Refrain.
Alright.
We are going to get this started here. Why don't you let Refrain know that he is the host, and tell him to get this started. In the meantime, we have NYU up 1-0 over their opponents, Columbia. PengWin trying to avenge his fallen teammate, Besta. And of course, go to cstarleague.com and make sure to register for their next tournament coming up. It's the Azuba Collegiate Champions. You can register by the end of tonight. You've got a couple more days left to do it. And you can...
A couple more hours.
Couple more hours,
You do
excuse
not have
me.
a couple more days.
You do not have a couple more days. If you're thinking you would, go grab some dinner, sleep on it, grab breakfast and register, you will be too late, my friend. You only have an hour or two left.
Yep, so we're finally getting into this game. Sounds pretty good, right? I mean, it's been a little while, Might have forgotten.
Building up the suspense because these maps are absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
On the loading screen right now, but we're going to get into this game very, very shortly. A Terran Mirror 2. Terran Mirror is going to be so exciting to see how put on these new maps. It's such a positional matchup.
Absolutely.
It's going to be really intense.
I could not think of a better matchup to have here on this new exciting map. We have a TVT representing NYU in the bottom left-hand corner. We have Refrain in the pink Terran. And in the top right-hand corner, representing Columbia, we have PengWin in the light blue Terran.
PengWin, spelling his name to sure he tried to get that victory screen. That is what he's going for. Why don't we actually take a look at some of the features of this map? When we take a look at the natural expansion, for example, we can see there's 2 ways, there's 2 points you have to defend. One, the only entrance that's available to start is a small ramp here, but as soon as you kill the blue rocks, it actually kills all 3 of them at the same time. And look, they're not super easy to kill, but they will go down eventually. And the really cool thing is that the life on your blue rocks and the life on your opponent's blue rocks is actually shared. So you can notice the life on the rocks guarding your natural going down. That's because the opponent is killing the ones over by his base. They're all linked up together. If we take a look at his natural base, actually, let's go into the natural itself. We see some green rocks. You can only use half the base. Half the minerals and one of the gases is blocked by these green rocks. These are much easier to kill, though, and it's a similar situation, whereas if you're killing them on both sides of the map at the same time. They're all linked. There's some other rocks around the map, I believe. We've got some red rocks blocking the middle pass again. Those are linked as well, so you kill one, you kill them both. And, of course, at the top left and bottom right, there's some bases blocked by yellow rocks. and then what would most likely be your third at the middle. The middle base and the top base, there's black rocks guarding both those. So if you want to take that base, you got to kill the black rocks. But you got to remember, if you kill the black rocks on your side, your opponent's going to have access to that base as well. Let's take a look at these openings. PengWin with a significantly faster orbital command. He just got that barracks just a little bit quicker than Refrain did.
Yeah, we did have a gas first opening from Refrain, while PengWin going the traditional, I think, barracks and then gas. As, of course, Refrain's tech will now be slightly faster. Yeah, his orbital will be a bit slower, and he wanted Marines out in as early. As you can see, the scouting SCV getting plenty of scouting in. Well, I do believe that Refrain, has not... Actually, Refrain did not even try to scout. So, PengWin is well aware of the gas first, while Refrain had no scouting information available. Factory coming up for PengWin, already been in progress for Refrain, of course. One thing interesting to note is Refrain's factory is not anywhere near this barracks, nor is he starting a tech lab here. So it's not likely to be the super fast Banshee build that we do see sometimes with this gas first, just building the starport straight on the tech lab at this barracks. So it will be interesting to see what he does go for. Reactor Hellions also out of the question here. So it may be a 1-1-1 with Marine, Heli, and Medevac. Common opening we do also see off gas first. And so far that looks like what he's going for. Actually moving out with two SCVs.
Putting on some pressure early. This is a really interesting build because he doesn't have much to back up this pressure with, but if he catches his opponent off guard, maybe he gets to jump on the Marines with SCVs to tank for his Marines. He might get a couple kills early, and then following that up with what looks to be either Banshee or Hellion drop play. It could be very, very dangerous. He's still doing this all off of a single gas, whereas PengWin is actually operating 2 gas. PengWin might be going for Cloak Banshees of his own.
Yeah, PengWin does have double gas, as you did mention. This expeditionary force has moved up. Seems like PengWin must have caught wind, or he just backed off and did move to safety. Actually, losing a couple of this rallying as well. PengWin losing quite a number of forces here. Reaper and Lost have Refrain definitely did come out here ahead in that battle. And it looks like he's going to be able to take down one of these supply depots. Will help PengWin's production, and actually he could be in serious trouble.
Well, he really could. He wants to get a Banshee one more units out to help him in this game, but unfortunately he's supply blocked now, and he just started his next depot. He's going to get a medevac out, but a medevac won't do much good without using support. Let's hope this one tank can clear out the units on its own.
Yeah, this is definitely a tough spot for PengWin. He did get out his tank and his medevac, but he won't have a whole lot of support. It's going to be difficult here for PengWin to make the comeback. I mean, his opponent's expansion is up far earlier.
One of the things to note here is that PengWin, he's held off the initial harassment, but Refrain has got to follow up. He's got a Banshee heading across the map, and what does PengWin have that can shoot up? He's got a medevac. He's got a tank, but neither of those really can shoot units. He's starting to get a couple Marines out.
Got one Marine.
He's got one Marine, and he does have a missile turret, so if Refrain isn't very careful with that Banshee, he could end up walking into a world of pain. But if he is careful with it, a couple Marines, I don't think they're going to be quite enough to hold off this Banshee.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a tough spot for PengWin over here. Doesn't have a whole lot to deal with this Banshee. I mean, he will be able to get out a Viking or a few Marines eventually, but he's definitely going to take some serious economic damage here. He's going to lose at least a few SCVs, maybe even like 10 or so. PengWin quickly retreating the SCVs.
And the medevac is going to be so invaluable here. Normally takes a Banshee 2 shots to kill SCVs, but if your medevac is there, it can bring that up to 3. And while that seems like it's only one more shot, that can save lives, and saving lives really pays off in the long run. We can see Refrain already working his rocks. PengWin has got to know this because on PengWin's side of the map, he can see these rocks are going down. That tells him his opponent probably has an expansion, and that's why he wants to get rid of those rocks. Such a cool map feature we have here.
Yeah, I really definitely love this feature. This Banshee continuing to go to work. It does so far have 8 kills. Most of those SCVs, including a couple Marines as well. Another SCV goes down. May even go after the tank, although that would easily get picked up in the medevac. But more importantly,
another
also
Marine.
A ton of mining.
Marine says challenge accepted. I'll go mano-a-mano with the Banshee. Unfortunately, that was the wrong challenge to take. If you're a Marine, do not go head-to-head with the Banshee. Still no Viking in production. He's got another Marine coming out. Will that be enough? The Banshee is so hurt, but man, that has so many kills. Let's check out that kills. A sergeant, soon to be a captain. Is she gonna make it? Wow, there we go. Captain, is she gonna die to the Marines after her? She's got her on. Oh! Marine, that is one kill, but that is one big kill. He's etching that on his forearm in blood to always remember the kill that Banshee that really took out so much of his economy. Unfortunately, even though he did finally push that off, Refrain is up massively in supply.
Yeah, Refrain definitely getting a huge lead with that opening harass. Very well done, knocking down a couple of supplies to keep PengWin's production at bay, and then the Banshee really going to town on those SCVs. He even had to put down another turret with the very little money that he had. I mean, PengWin now does have his natural command center up far later than Refrain's, though. Refrain has had this expansion established for a few minutes now. He is adding a couple more factories, and it looks like he'll be transitioning into mech play.
Mech play is a great utility when you're far behind. Of course, if you try to mass Marines and your opponent mass Marines, it's almost just a smaller rock trying to go up against a bigger rock. No matter how well you micro, you're going to be in trouble. But in mech play versus mech play, you have a lot of options. You could try to return to economic damage with Hellion drops. And of course, tank lines, even if you're outnumbered, a strong tank line can defeat a much stronger force. A great choice of PengWin to go into this mech play.
Yeah, absolutely. As we can see in Refrain's base, he is also adding up to 3 factories going into that mech play, researching Blue Flame, adding both the gas at his natural, and we should, hopefully we'll see this game develop a little more without Refrain. Hopefully PengWin can mount some sort of a comeback, but it will be definitely a tough position for PengWin to work from here. No plans on breaking down these rocks for him. He wants to stay as safe as possible for the time being. Refrain, not breaking down these rocks just quite yet. Actually moving out with a medevac, as well as I believe he had a Banshee somewhere. But
I think it's still hanging around at his base somewhere.
Yeah, it's still in the main.
It's on break. The first one did such a good work and then was rewarded by getting shot down in an end. So his next Banshee's got to be thinking, even if I do a great job. Oh, nice spot by PengWin, scouting out that medevac. Refrain trying to sneak around the map. But the question is, even though PengWin knows it's coming, what does he have to respond to these 3 Hellions? He's still only got a few Marines.
Yeah, looks like one tank is out, but he does not have these moved into position, and these Hellions do have Blue Flame.
He cannot afford any more SCV losses. That Banshee really cleared him out. These Hellions are going to come in to finish the job.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of damage
2,
going
3,
down.
4 SCVs going on. Now the SCVs are trying to scurry away. The only good news for PengWin is that because they have so few SCVs, there's not too much splash damage being dealt out. Oh, they're going to the natural, though. They're into red. He's got his own Hellions after him. He's trying with SCVs, but they're bunching up.
A couple more going down, 1 or 2 more going down. Overall, SCV losses are significant. When I can find the right tab, there it is. 22 SCVs killed by Refrain. Only 9 for PengWin. I don't actually know how he managed to kill 9. I must have missed that. But anyway, both, as we mentioned earlier, are transitioning into mech play. We have Siege Mode and Blue Flame for Refrain, neither of which I believe is done for PengWin. Just a handful of tanks on either side, but Refrain definitely has the upper hand here. I mean, he's got the initiative. He's the one who can afford to be out on the map, doing tactics like Hellion drops. Actually, PengWin moving out with his own Hellion drop, but if this fails, that's a much bigger problem for PengWin. While Refrain, can afford to throw a few Hellions away for a few SCVs.
He really can. He can totally afford to trade units. The one thing that's going strong for PengWin, though, is that both of them are still on 2 base. Refrain has not added extra economy, and so Refrain cannot get the value from adding more SCVs, since he's already so close to 2 base full saturation. Let's take a look at Refrain's main base. PengWin's going in there for his drop. Can he equalize some of this damage? The SCVs are so heavily stacked there, but Refrain with the Banshees and Hellions, killing PengWin's Hellions before they can even kill a single worker there.
Yeah, and I mean, the worker count, we'd like to give PengWin some credit here, but the fact is that the worker count is 17 to 61, now 18 to 62. I mean, it's just going to be so tough a position for him to come back with such an economic deficit. I mean, yeah, Refrain is oversaturated. In fact, 24 SCVs minus
on 3,
mineral
wow.
patches. That's
about really
awkward.
wanting to mind those mineral patches. The ones in the north must be the mineral patches that aren't like so much. Only the mules are allowed to mine those ones. The SCVs all bundling up on those bottom ones, and that's really helping PengWin stay in the game. The one thing, it is kind of painful moments to see something like that, but one thing to notice is that because PengWin's down by about 40 workers, that means his army is actually not, I mean, it's still weaker, but it's not that much weaker.
Yeah.
It's at least competitive, especially, I mean, he's working on siege mode now. If Refrain doesn't push until PengWin gets siege mode, a siege line can hold off on a defense, and PengWin might find a way to recover, but he's not building any SCVs.
Oh, God. We got a bunch of SCVs coming off the line. I don't know if these are transferring to the main or... Okay.
Oh, they're going for the attack.
Attack.
He says, I've got the Thor. He's going to show the rest of my guys how to do it. You know what? When you play StarCraft 2, you got to add in one flagship unit. Whatever that's a Marine mixed into your tanks, whether it's a Thor, a Banshee, that way you have a sense of leadership amongst your units. It's an important part of this game. In many respects, Refrain over doubling PengWin's food. And he's even bringing SCVs too. PengWin, no siege. Oh, he's siege mode. He's almost finishing. Is he going to get it in time?
Yeah, he's not even going to have siege mode here for this fight, so it's definitely going to be a tough one for him. He might be able to siege up right as the troops move in, but it's just not going to be enough. SCV is coming off the line, both sides got...
Thor's trying to get in there, lays down the hammer on one heli, but he's trying to get in there. He can't because the rest of his army is being so effective. They're saying, no, we want the kills. PengWin's like, you know what, I don't care which units gets the kills. My guys are going down, and I've got to type in GG.
Yeah, and that is it for PengWin in Game 2. So NYU, as we hear the cheers from the other room, has taken a second victory, moving up 2-0 in this GSTL style series. Columbia will once again have to send out the next player, and I don't know who they will choose. It is a best-of-9 series, as I have just confirmed, so we will be seeing the first team to 5 take the victory. So we still got 3 more to go for NYU, but Columbia has put themselves in a tight hole.
They really have, and one thing to note is Refrain has won these first 2 games in such a dominant fashion. I mean, both the games over doubling his opponent's supply. The first game absolutely destroying the one base all-in attempted, and in the second game, he was the one who actually was doing the damage himself. He wasn't playing defense, he was playing offense. So it's really nice to see a player like this who has a mix of strategies. He can play 2-base defend, he can throw under harass. He's a really well-rounded player. It looks like the next game is it going to be on Ohana. We're waiting to see what map is Columbia going to pick. They're going to pick Ohana, and we're mixing it up here. We started on Cloud Kingdom, then we went to one of these map jam maps called Gemini, which is really cool with the cool different linked rock syndrome. Unfortunately, that game was decided fairly early, so we didn't get to see how the rocks played out as the game developed. But now we're back to Ohana, another very a staple of tournament play. This map is very solid. Let's see who is Columbia going to bring in to face against Refrain. I mean, they brought in their starting player to Prost and do so well, so they pulled in a Terran. The Terran lost as well. PengWin, of course. And who are they going to bring in next? Are they going to try to bring in a Zerg? Say, maybe, okay, Refrain showed they have great TVP, great TVT. Maybe need a Zerg to throw them off? Or are they going to throw another one of those other races? I'm not really sure which way they're going to go.
Yeah, definitely a few options for the Columbia team, but, whatever they do, they're in a tough spot here. They are down 2-0. Another loss would really make it that much more difficult to mount a comeback. I mean, they've really got to get someone who can stem the tide and turn this match around, because not only do they have to match these wins by Refrain, they're eventually going to have to overtake the NYU team if they have any hopes of winning. So, Columbia definitely going to have to make a big choice here, and whatever player they pick is going to have to come through in the clutch.
It really is. I would almost expect, based on Ohana effect they're picking up, it's probably going to be a Protoss. You don't know for sure, though, but Ohana is a great map for PvT. You can pressure the third. You can defend your own third. Draw play is not as dangerous on this map, and Colossi plays great. There's less options where Vikings can hide and snipe your Colossi as you duel. And, of course, the 4th and 5th, you can usually deny the Terran from taking both of those bases because one's on the left side of the map, the other one's on the right side of the map. It's very hard for Terran to protect both those bases from massive Protoss late game warpins.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing to note about these teams is that they are consisted of entirely master players, so we do have a pretty solid lineup of players on both sides. It should be a very competitive match. Anyone has the chance to take out any other player. So Columbia is definitely not out here. They could easily have a player come through with a couple clutch wins for them, and we are just waiting to see who that player will be.
One thing that's really interesting to note is that Refrain, while he's won 2-0 in a dominant fashion, both these games he's won off of early game play. The first game, of course, was early game defense against that Blink Stalker all-in, shutting down so solidly. And then the next game, he won early game with some stellar Banshee harass. Well, it was really actually that Marine Helming push that killed that killed all of PengWin's Marines, and so he had no answer to the Hellion. But what's interesting here is, so if I'm a Columbia, I'm going to be thinking, this guy's been killing our guys in the first 7 minutes, game after game. What we need to do is we need to find one of our players who has a really solid early game, who's not going to fall behind early, to test this guy's mid-game and see if maybe that's a section where he's a little bit weaker in.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so far, Refrain has shown excellent play, both defending and attacking in the early game. I mean, he's had a diverse range of strategies thus far. I mean, only so diverse he can be through 2 games. But yeah, he went on the offensive in the second game after defending and all in rather nicely in the first. And I believe we have Bargak, a Protoss player, coming up, except he's not in this channel, so we will hopefully he will show
I
up
bet
soon.
you, after seeing Refrain's first 2 games, he might be a little worried, needing some extra last-minute practice over there on a Korean server, cranking out some games against Terrans, trying to get himself ready. Let's see if we can get him in a game shortly, though, because I'm excited for Game 3. Columbia has got to make a comeback. I mean, the overall CSS score, both these teams have beaten each other once before, so they're both very evenly matched. It's going to be a close match, but so far, yeah, I got to be honest, it hasn't looked that even. NYU's been really coming out on top, 2-0, and not closely fought 2-0. NYU, I mean, Refrain has been coming out strong, really dominating these first 2 games.
Absolutely. So I think, really we don't have a whole lot left to say about this game. We're just really hoping to get the second player in here at any moment now. He has been chosen. We do know it is a Protoss player. Again, of course, another Masters level player from Columbia. He just needs to join this channel so I can invite him to the game, and then we'll be set.
Well, one thing I want to ask you is, let's say you're Refrain. You know that Columbia's picked up a Protoss to go against you on Ohana. What are you going to be thinking? What's your opening build going to be, and what's your approach as you transition into the mid game going to be?
Well, Ohana's a map that, there is, of course, the threat of some sort of cheese play. It's not a big map, but, it does have a pretty defensive main and natural. You've got a reasonable cliff on the main against Blink Stalkers. You have a very nice defendable ramp at the natural, so, you can really go for standard play, but 1-1-1 is also strong. I mean, personally, I actually kind of like this map as a Terran, although I know some Terrans dislike it. But I think really it's up to Refrain, and really whatever style he wants to play could be effective on this map. I wouldn't worry about anything super specific here for Refrain. I mean, he just needs to get out there, play his game. He's already kind of done his job, so every player he takes out from here is a big bonus for the NYU team and just lightens the load down towards the end of the match.
It really does. I mean, even if it was the next game, he can say, I took out 2, but he'd much rather say I've taken out 3. Coming into Ohana, I mean, we mentioned it's not that great for cheese, of course. The one thing that's really nice about it for a Terran player is that the 2 base timings that are so strong in PvT that many Protoss rely on to really bring home those wins. Terran player has an easier time defending on Ohana than many other maps because they have the ramp to defend. And when you have the ramp, it means that it's almost a force field-like effect on your opponent. Of course, force fields, what they do is they block many of the units from entering the battle, and they can allow you to only fight a few at a time. And the ramp does that in inverse. Even if the Protoss is able to really isolate your units, their units are going to be isolated as they're coming up the ramp as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It is definitely a pretty good map for a Terran to defend those all-ins. Okay, well, Bargak is here, but just said give me 2 minutes, so
He's
any moment now.
Got to get his sayings, got to figure out exactly how he's going to approach Refrain. And we heard it from Poke Bunny how he thinks Refrain is going to act on this map. Coming from the Protoss point of view, what I really expect to see is, everyone's got their own style, but if I was playing in there, I was being thrown up against Ganahana, I really had to win. I would open up with a Nexus first, followed by a Forge, get your armor upgrade, put on some gateway pressure with armor upgrade units, and then behind that, you go to Blink Stalkers and Colossi. The mobility play on Hana is so strong. A lot of Terrans like to try to drop your main because there's so much area in your main that's open. And if you get that Blink out, it can really shut it down, not to mention the ability to counterattack into their main with an Observer later down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is definitely, I don't know, I mean, would you say this is a good map for Terran or Protoss, like all things considered? I mean, I think both of us kind of feel that it's not too bad for Terran, but, as a Protoss player, do you really dislike this map, or what are your thoughts?
No, I actually think this is one of the maps If you average out, let's say, the 7 maps used in tournament play right now, this is, I think, one of the better ones for Protoss in that set. It's definitely, you don't have to worry about early aggression too much. 1-on-1's relatively easy to stop. And the two great things about it is your third is easy to defend from drop play. And then it's very, very easy to deny Terran from going to 5 bases, and it's relatively easy to take your own 5 bases. There's a lot of spots you can flank with Templar from, and it's if the Terran ever tries to even if the Terran tries to take a 4th, they're going to be spread out enough that if you're combining Warp Prism or Pylon Warp in play on one side of the map, and then positioning with your army to choke out your opponent on the other side of the map, it can be very difficult for a Terran to hold their ground and maintain that map control. Looks like Bargak is in the game. He's ready. He's switching to Protoss. Let's see if Refrain is still ready. He's had a little bit of a break to recharge his batteries.
Yeah, we're just making sure these players are ready, and then we will start. All right, here we go into game number 3. Once again, NYU up 2-0 in this show match at NYU. CSL's FallCraft event. Really excellent event, by the way. Big thanks to the NYU Game Center for hosting us here. We got some very enthusiastic faculty here helping support this event that do really care about StarCraft, which is really awesome to see. We had these guys helping out earlier with our panel, but helping with our technical support all the time. Also, do check out CSL at cstarleague.com. Tonight is the last night to register for their season, the Azubu Collegiate Champions. So please go ahead and do that. If you are interested in forming a CSL team at your school, definitely a really great league to be involved in.
It really is, and of course, thank you to NYU Game Center for hosting us up here tonight. It's been a blast. I mean, you mentioned all the events we had going on tonight. If you missed them, you can rewatch the stream later. There was, of course, the panels interesting, going over the maps. I mean, we actually got a ton of really good maps. I was checking out a lot of the map submissions. I think there's about 20, and at least 12 to 13 of those 20 were maps you could actually see being played in a serious setting. Of course, we're going to choose 3, and we chose 3 that we felt, both really stuck with the theme of utilizing those destructible rocks, and also had something unique and cool that was fun to see. We saw that last game on Gemini, of course, watching those green rocks. One of the things that was really cool there, if we could gotten a picture of PengWin's face, right, when he's lost 15 SCVs in his main to that Banshee, and then he sees the green rocks by his natural going down, and he's like, uh-oh, that means he is a natural too?
Yeah.
If he was on one base, it might have been okay to lose 15 SCVs, because then at least your opponent still doesn't have too many. But then being forced to face the fact that he's got 2 bases, I mean, that's just brutal.
Yeah, absolutely. But going on to this game, we have a TVP on Ohana. Pink Terran Refrain representing NYU in the top left, quickly building a supply and barracks at the wall. No gap. Oh, we got a proxy barracks going down over here, so we will definitely have some pressure. It could be an all-in, it could be some pressure into expand, but it's definitely going to be some sort of aggressive play here from Refrain. And in the bottom right-hand corner, of course, representing Columbia, we have the light blue Protoss Bargak, I'm not really sure, I'm going to call him Bargak. Opening up standard so far, but notably with only 2 probes on the gas. So that is likely indicative of a fast expand build with mostly stalkers and maybe a couple zealots or maybe a sentry, but probably mostly stalker based if I had to guess.
That's definitely the pretty much standard off of the opening that he's showing us right now. I really love the build Refrain's doing. There's been a couple Korean players like Alive who's really popularized this build, and the question always is how many SCVs to pull. Some players like to try to pull all the SCVs and really knock the Protoss out early, but I feel that if the Protoss shows stellar stalker control, they can just keep picking the army eventually. But one of the ways that I've seen his 2X Open utilize that is so effective is when you pull just enough SCVs to force some bunkers up to contain the Protoss, and you do macro play behind it. But that's always such a hard point, is if you pull too few SCVs, they can get sniped before you get a bunker up. And if you pull too many, then you might be behind even if you contain the Protoss for quite a while.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely both very important things to consider. This barracks has not yet been scouted, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, not yet been scouted by the Protoss. Terran is controlling this watchtower and driving out any scouting The Protoss has gone for 20 next and has still not started a Stalker, which is really interesting. He's actually chosen to add extra gateways and Chrono Boost Warp Gate instead. So he's going to have 4 Stalkers out really quickly. This is an old Huck opening, I believe, that used to be popular a long time ago. But we've actually got the Pain Train coming through for Refrain. Tons of SCVs coming off the line. We have only 2 remaining at home with a couple in production.
I love how he keeps the herd SCV at home. You know, you got to give preference to those veterans. That guy's got a Purple Heart. Let him work it off in the mines instead of being at the battlefront.
Yeah, Bargak really has no idea this is coming at all, and these SCVs are literally going to hit his base as soon as he sees them. I mean, this is got to be a rough spot for Bargak.
It really is. His warp gate, though, is moments from finishing. If he can warp in 3 more Stalkers, that could really turn a tide. If he needs to buy some time. Refrain, on the other hand, needs to try to do damage now. He's got about 8 more seconds before those Stalkers come into play. Doing good damage to the first Stalker, but he's backing up, showing a little bit of indecision. Oh, he's trying to get a bunker up into Maryland. If that goes up, that's going to be so tough for Bargak.
Oh, he gets the SCV. But it's still going to be tough. I mean, there are so many SCVs, and he has to pick off the SCVs while kiting these Marines. But, you know, if he gets 3 more Stalkers, it could turn the tide, because he's got the production advantage here. As long as he can control his mineral line and keeps the mining going, he might still have a chance, even with this bunker getting up, as long as he can pick off a few units and build up his own unit count.
The point about controlling the mineral line, it's so important. Unfortunately, with that bunker there, that's going to be so hard to control. Marines in bunkers have the same range as Stalkers, and of course, the bunker itself is not easy to take down. He's making his move now, pulling all the SCVs, or probes, excuse me.
Yeah, and he's going to go straight for this bunker. A little bit of indecision, though, not quite focusing either the Marines around the bunker or the bunker, and so he doesn't really kill a whole lot of anything. He still has a solid Stalker count and warping in more Zealots, so he could actually take this down here, I believe.
He would even just give up his main, and he could mine from his natural, save a few Stalkers to defend, counterattack with the rest of his Zealot Stalker force.
Yeah.
Refrain has nothing to defend. As long as Bargak can hold his natural, he'll be in great shape, and I think all it would take is about 2-3 Stalkers to stay back to hold that natural.
Yeah, absolutely. Bargak really has to make a good decision here, though. I mean, this is a really tough spot, stressful spot to be in as a Protoss player. You know, you have a lot of options. What is he going to go for? This bunker seems to be...
He's got to focus those SCVs on. If he takes the SCVs down, the bunker will fall eventually. That Stalker, though, it's almost dead. Is Refrain? He focuses it down, gets that Stalker. Only 1 SCV left, though. But Bargak, with some great micro, could probably whittle this bunker down. And then, of course, there's several hurt Marines here as well.
Done. Last SCV sniped off. These Marines will certainly fall. And he does have a few probes left to mine with.
Only
not a
4,
lot,
though.
Yeah.
And Refrain is up to 10 SCVs plus the mules. Even if Bargak holds his Nexus, his economy is going to be in such a rough spot. I can't help but think it might have been a mistake to pull those probes to try to get that bunker down in first place.
Yeah, absolutely. He just committed not quite at exactly the right time. You know, it was a really tough spot to judge. I mean, we have to be honest here. Like,
losing more probes right now, those Marines.
Yeah. This bunker is almost down to burning, but the fact is the Nexus is also almost dead as well. This is going to be a really stressful spot for Bargak. I mean, the Nexus is gonna go down.
Ooh, and I mean, why don't we take a look at his probe count? With 8 probes, he really 7 probes, losing even more. Great micro by Refrain there, and knowing that attacking the Stalkers is not going to kill them, so you go for those probes kill. Refrain doubling Bargak's probe count. The one thing Bargak could have relied on was double Nexus production to try to get his work count back in the game, but he doesn't even have that anymore. We can look at the economic difference. He has less than half of the economy.
Yeah, I actually think if he had kept that second Nexus up, you know, this game would be pretty reasonable. These Stalkers will have complete map control for quite a while, and the double Nexus Pro protection really catches you up quick if you're not spending money on anything else. And he wouldn't have needed to make more units. I mean, he had enough Stalkers to easily take control of the map and fend off all pressure, and, you know, he'd of course be able to warp in units at home if any pressure did come. But without that second Nexus to boost his probe production, I just don't think he's ever going to be able to catch up, because even if he gets even in the probe count, he doesn't have a second base.
He really doesn't. The one advantage he has, though, is his base is totally fresh. Refrain has been mining from the same base for quite a while. He's been dropping mules there. If this game eventually goes to one base versus one base situation, if it stays in this situation for another about 5 minutes, Refrain's gonna be out of the money. He's gonna have to move his base down. And Bargak, he's actually doing some damage here with these Stalkers. Unfortunately, though, Refrain, he's got a plan for these Stalkers in the making. Back at his base, Marauders cranking out there, and Bargak can't even afford to build anything but probes. That's literally that's his entire budget is being spent on probes. If he wants to have any chance of holding out this giant massive Marauder Marine force Refrain's making, he's going to need to get some sentries on the field.
Ooh. So it looks like he's going to be retaking the main here soon, which is a risk here, but I actually think it might be a good risk, because if he
It's
can
a necessary risk.
Yeah, exactly. If he can hold the natural by whatever means possible, and there will only be bioforces, so if he builds up some gas and gets some sentries out, that could be reasonable. I mean, this natural does have a very small ramp. It does have 2 ramps, which could be broken down, but that also buys him some extra time. So basically, there's a chance that this risk could pay off, in which case Bargak would have an advantage. I mean, Refrain is on a timer here. He's on one base that is
And it's mining
quickly
out.
mining out.
He's already mined out one of those crystals. Another one's about to drop. He's going to go from 8 mining crystals to 6. He's cranking out units like crazy, but like you mentioned, if Bargak can hold his ramp, he'll be in
Yeah.
good shape. He's got 2 sentries already.
Very smart.
He's adding more gas so he can even build more sentries, and he has production. This is the one key thing. His economy was crippled from that opening, but throughout it all, he had 3 warp gates going the whole time.
Yeah.
Whereas Refrain, of course, had 2 barracks with no gas.
Oh,
Here comes
here
some
we
more
go.
SCVs.
So basically the key here is going to be force field.
It really is.
That's the only way he's going to be able to hold this attack, and with excellent force fields, he can even pick off a few free units. But to be honest, if I were him, I would take the easy road out and just try to force field as long as I can while building more and more sentries. He needs to spend all his gas on sentries right now. He knows it's coming now. No, if these sentries die, oh my god.
Oh, he's leaving the sentries behind. Those were his lifeline. Refrain jumps on him, takes him down in a matter of seconds. And what is? Bargak has 2 more
2
sentries.
more, but that's not enough.
He's got to cut some of these in half. He's got to get some kills here
Nicely
because
done, but he's going to lose the sentries.
he's going to lose the sentries, but at least they got their energy. His only hope to beat this army is to fight it in parts. He no longer has the sentry count to keep it locked out forever. Oh, he's going to have to pull some probes. Here the probes come. They say, let me at him. We want some vengeance from what happened at the start of the game. But Refrain's got those marauders, and the probe count is dropping.
Yeah, probes, I mean, even this attack should get cleaned up just barely. Actually, maybe not.
Maybe not. Those marauders are tough guys. They say probes. We'll take those any day. He's going up the ramp, but he realizes he's at 7 food.
And
The opponent's at
GG.
52.
Refrain taking game number 3 for NYU. Wow, very impressive game 3 from Refrain. Again, being very flexible with his strategies. I mean, he had an opening and he took it. Although, to be honest, I don't think he saw the natural, so I don't know if it was quite a reactive opening. But he made it work. And I think the key points, well, I mean, after the initial opening, which Bargak really couldn't have done a ton to help based on his opening. I mean, neither of them really scouted, and Refrain's just went better. But, that losing those 2 sentries at the Watchtower could have saved him the game.
It could have given him a chance. I mean, I'm not even with the sentries, it would have been such a tough hold. Of course, he could prevent the units from coming down for maybe up to half a minute. But eventually, they're going to get up there, and he just didn't have any DPS to deal with them. It was maybe a doable hold, but he could have really saved himself a lot of trouble if he never lost those SCVs at the start. He had his natural up. He could even just abandon the main with his massive probe count. He might have been okay there. Instead of that bunker just did so much damage. It's so hard to stop a bunker from getting up when there's so many SCVs there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just a tough spot to be in as a Protoss player, and you really need the experience to have that decision-making to make the right choice in that situation. We definitely can't discredit him too much for not doing the perfect response in that specific situation when, with that certain amount of SCVs and Marines, etc. It's just you got to have a different response for every specific situation, and that's just such a tough thing for even a professional player to know. But, I think...
One thing to mention, actually, is his Stalker micro throughout that was actually really, really good. I mean, he had so many Stalkers down that Red was able to keep almost all those Stalkers alive, and that's the only reason that actually kept him in the game as long as he stayed in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Our next map is going to be Boulder Dash.
It looks like, are we having T come in as the next player?
No, he's a troll.
Oh, okay. Pardon me. We got some...
That was from last game.
We got some funny guys coming into the channel here. Boulder Dash is another one. Actually, why don't we bring up the map? Here we go. Boulder Dash is another one of these maps from the map jam today. This one reminiscent a little bit from Crossfire, but only in the background color. There's so many more routes. There's a lot of cool features. There's a lot of openings that come up once you kill different rocks. My personal favorite feature of this map is actually definitely going to be the gold bases in the middle. Let's see.
Sorry.
See, okay, if we bring that map right back up, the gold base is in the middle. There's 2 of them. Of course, one is on the top side, one's on the bottom side. Those places, they're pseudo islands. No one can get to them until you kill the rocks. Once you kill the rocks, there's no real opening into the base except from you. So in a way, it's a very safe base. But on the other hand, it's on the low ground up against the cliff that's so accessible to your opponent that it's very, very difficult to defend any workers you have mining that gold base from harass. So I'm really, really interested in how these gold bases are really going to play out in this game.
All right, we have some information from the battlefield actually at our disposal. So the next player for Colombia is going to be Benji, a Zerg player. And our scouting report is he builds drones.
Ooh, that has got to be a very good skill to have. A famous player called Rhett is his prime skill. If you can do that as well, that is really a good skill. But we saw Refrain open with marine aggression. I don't know if pure drone can hold that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've also got a quote from Refrain that was, "Yay, we're not being all killed," which I think is a bit of an understatement here. Refrain putting NYU out to a huge start, 3-0 so far. In fact, one more and it's going to be match point.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, 3-0 is such nice victories for his team. Can he do another one on this Boulder Dash map? This map has a pretty, it's not a super fast walking distance across it. So building drones, I think, is going to be a great skill on this map. One thing that, I mean, and Benji's a fierce name. I actually had a assistant wrestling coach called Benji, and this guy was not someone you ever want to mess with. This player is sure to be at least that fierce in this game. I mean, building drones. And one thing we haven't seen Refrain play against a Zerg player yet.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Zerg is a matchup that a lot of Terrans who are proficient at TVT and TVP, a lot of those players struggle with TVZ. I mean, I think, thinking about Terran players, I think the one that the most Terran players really have fundamental trouble with is TVZ because it's a little bit less linear than the other matchups. The timings are not as clear because drones can be built at any time or not built at any time. Your tech is much less linear and your economy, it's all about bursts, and it's a tough matchup to understand. So he could have more trouble in this matchup. He also possibly could not. Also, reports from the Columbia camp seem a bit worried, wondering who they have left to take down Refrain. We could see an all-kill here if Columbia really does not have the answer for this excellent Terran player.
Yeah, he's just building up momentum after momentum. 3 games in a fairly convincing fashion. I have to say myself, in the last 3 games, I don't think there was ever a moment where Refrain looked to be in trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that last game could have possibly gone differently with a few different decisions, but at the same time, I mean, even if those right decisions were made, even if he saved the 2 sentries, even if he retreated some more probes, Refrain was not in a bad spot by any means. So Refrain definitely showing solid play throughout all stages of every game. They've all been fairly short, but he has remained in control.
Refrain staying in control. Is he going to maintain it on Boulder Dash? We'll have to see. This is kind of an interesting map. There's a lot of... Why don't we bring up the map again and talk about how specifically... Actually, are we ready? Not quite yet.
No.
So if you bring up the map again, we can talk about how this map will specifically affect TVZ. One thing that plays a big role in TVZ is really... actually, it looks like our player might be ready.
Our player. We will not be able to look at the map anymore for now, but we will be able to look at it in the game, in action. So,
let's see if he's ready.
Refrain taking 3 in a row. Thanks to NYU's Game Center for hosting this great event at their Game Center. Sign up for CSL last night to do so at cstarleague.com. Their Azubu Collegiate Champions Tournament last night to register. Please do so and support the CSL. And it's a really fun league, actually. I'll finally be getting into college next year, and I'm really looking forward to joining whatever school I go to, their CSL team. Really excited to be part of that community because it's a really strong community, and whatever team I'm on is going to win.
Fierce words spoken out of Mr. Pokemon here. Maybe Columbia needs to pick you up next year to deal with this Refrain guy. This guy is on fire.
Yeah, absolutely. Refrain has been pretty impressive this far, and I will apply to Columbia. So just go bug your admissions officers and tell them to accept me. Anyway, we will be opening up here with a TVZ on Boulder Dash, one of our homemade maps here at the NYU Map Jam. In the top right-hand corner, we have tonight's champion, Refrain, from NYU, taking the first 3 games in a decisive fashion, going up 3-0, the Pink Terran Refrain. And in the bottom left-hand corner, we have the Red Zerg Benji, the challenger from Colombia, hopefully going to be able to take down this excellent Terran player here. We've heard he likes to build drones, and we know that Zergs that build drones tend to be pretty successful. As long as they build some infestors or something along with those, you know?
Eventually, you got to add in something else, at least some spawning cars, something to help defend. One thing that's so important in TVZ is positioning. Of course, I mean, the Zerg ability to connect with Marines using either banelings or the infestor fungal growth is so key, and a Terran ability to deny both banelings and infestors with siege tanks is important as well. Why don't we take a look at some different points on this map that might be in contention, maybe different positionings where siege tanks could really play a big role.
Yeah, absolutely. So we just have this pretty standard main and natural, and this is the gold base that we were talking about earlier. It's on a low ground area, so it can be harassed easily by this upper area. So you can't just take it, you know, float a command center over in there and be like, LOL, you can't hit me. Although Zerg doesn't really have any long range units early on, but we'll ignore that for now.
Terrans aren't going to complain about that one.
Yeah, we do have these rocks here, though, which Zergs with map control will be able to break down quite easily. So it's not all hope lost if a Terran player does float to that semi-island base. But, you know, again, it's protected by destructible rocks, but you do need to have map control to take that base. Terran seems to be opening up with wall and gas. So gas is indicative of some sort of early, like, harass unit, most likely, either Hellions or
maybe even
maybe a Reaper. Yeah, there are a couple options here for the Terran. I mean, the standard would be Hellions, or even, like, I don't know. Seeing gas before expansion.
Yeah, gas before expansion isn't super standard in TVZ these days. Most TVZ has settled down to either command center first or one barracks expansion into gas. But you know, this could make the gas first build actually work out really well, because I'm not sure if Benji's going to suspect it coming.
We actually have a command center after 1 Marine, so it's just a slightly different one-racked expand.
Trying to get the factor out a little bit faster, maybe?
Yeah, there are players who do this, except usually they take the gas a bit later when they do such a build. I know DeMuslim is one who liked to do like a 12 barrack, 16 gas, and then command center around 18 or so, just to get that factory out immediately after the command center. But this was a little bit of a different build.
Only 2 SCVs on gas as well.
Yeah, another thing to definitely note. We should have the factory coming down any moment as soon as he reaches that 100 gas mark. I would be surprised to see anything else out of him. Benji, in the meantime, has gotten his hatch, gotten his spawning pool down, building queens, everything looking very normal for him. We'll have to monitor if he takes this gas early or chooses to go up to 4 queens and make a ton of drones. We heard he likes to make drones.
Look at Refrain. Another command center on the way. That gas is almost could be a psychological ploy. There goes the factory finally going down. And this is a very, very heavy macro opening. Maybe he's looking to float a command center over to that gold base like we were talking about.
Yeah.
Or maybe even we actually have Anons at the bottom right and top left of the map here. But there are rocks blocking him, so you can't just float a command center. Well, you actually could float a command center, and you could take the gas and maybe drop mules on 1 or 2 of the patches. It would not be the most efficient use of it, though.
Yeah, you'd almost rather keep it in your main. I'm almost sure you would rather keep it in your main.
You pretty much would, unless you did some insanely gas-intensive mass Banshee strategy where you really needed that extra gas and you couldn't quite. I don't think Refrain's really showed that in his repertoire quite yet, but he actually has showed a different build every single game, so maybe he will do something crazy like that, more suited to the map.
Yeah, we do have 4 queens out now, 4 Benji. No, actually, gas is just now coming up. 2 to be precise, and a pretty quick lair as well. Lair before any link speed, before any evolution chambers. So pretty quick considering the 4 queen opening. He's now going to be going up to a 3rd gas and an evolution chamber, and maybe another one.
Do you think this, I mean, it doesn't look like he's planning to take a 3rd particularly quickly. Do you think this is a reaction to the map? I mean, where would Zerg take a 3rd on this map? Maybe,
you got this
around
one,
here.
which is really actually not too unreasonable.
It's not.
To get rid of these rocks, but you know, you don't need the 6th gas super early in ZVT, regardless, until you at least get into the infestor stage. So I don't think it's really the map preventing him from taking a 3rd here.
Stylistic.
Yeah, I mean it's not a bad style either. Like we do see very many good Zergs take 3rds at 8 minutes or 9 minutes or so. That's
but you also see them very good Zergs often in 2-base tech as well.
Yeah, of course. there are a lot of options, and he did get this lair reasonably quickly. He'll have infestors out or to defend.
He's
early,
going roaches.
or maybe muted.
This actually could be a Nidus play. Roach Warren this fast.
Spore crawlers, roaches. Well, there is an evolution chamber that's upgrading roach attack, but the evolution chamber does make me think that it is not a nice play, as well as the 4 queens and now 2 more.
Oh, yeah, adding
the
more
4
queens.
Yeah.
This is interesting. He just wants to power out some roaches early. This is not too common off 2 base unless it is an Olin of some sort. There are some 2 base speed roach Olins. There's some 2 base, but I mean, the fact that he's getting the extra queens, like you said, those aren't really going to help him, unless of course he was going to use a Nidus.
Oh, he is going to run by with these 3 Hellions. Going to roast a couple drones. Probably will get 4, maybe 5 at best. Looks like it's going to be 4, I think.
Not the greatest of trade for those Hellions, but at the same time, he notices that there's very few drones in a natural. That's got to tip him off that something's happening, because at the 820 mark, I mean, how many drones does Zerg have total? 28.
What?
That's such a tiny economy. Why would he have such a small economy? It's because he's spending all his money on roaches and queens and Nidus.
Oh, you're right.
He's going to come out. Where's it going to go down, though? He only has 1 scouting opportunity. He's got that Overseer there. With this Nidus, with his queen count, those Banshees are going to be so ineffective with all the queens.
It's just...
Banshee finds a Nidus room, though. This isn't going to get up. He's going to cancel it. And this is... Benji has to get a Nidus up. But if the Banshee just follows the Overseer, how's he ever going to get it up? Oh, is the Banshee going to notice this next Nidus? If it doesn't, this could be huge.
He's going to get it up in time. Yeah, it looks like this Nidus willing to get up, but it's not an ideal spot. There are queens going to be coming through the Nidus, so he should be fine.
He's got to get the queens out quick, though. There they go.
Transfuse.
Nice.
He does get the transfuse
Perfect
down.
transfuse.
So 6 queens out here is going to make it tough. I mean, he can even spread a bit of creep into this
he's
natural.
Going straight for those rocks.
And there's
Refrain
nothing but
scared.
Hellions and Banshees, and there is an Overseer in case there's Cloak. Actually, Refrain might be in a really tough spot here. There's going to be a lot of roaches coming out.
Oh, a Nidus on the high ground. If Refrain is too distracted by the front and this Nidus gets up, it's going to circumvent his bunker and his wall.
Yeah, I'd really like to see a creep tumor come out here
that would
from
help
Benji.
so much get those queens out.
Yeah, I think he is.
Oh, it looks like he's just going to go on the high ground. Refrain.
Oh, here they come.
He's got to transfuse it. He's got to transfuse it. Oh, this is so terrible.
Is not good.
He only gets half his units out. These Banshees are going to have a field day. But he's transfusing from the low ground.
Yeah, these queens need to support this queen. Help on the
not
Banshees.
quite getting
This is
transfused.
tough.
But the queens are in low ground. All those Banshees are almost dead. One of them actually just fell.
Yeah, and this Nidus is actually up. All the queen's going to get in the main. He needs to put down a creep tumor as soon as possible to start giving his queens some mobility. How many queens do we actually have? We're going to have 4 in the main after this Nidus are fully unladen.
So
There's
many
roaches.
transfuses.
Yeah.
A Marauder is going to come out, but he's got like 12 transfuses available. I think Benji is on the road to doing what his teammates could not. He might stop the ult kill. He might stop Refrain here.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely going to be a huge victory for Columbia if Benji manages to pull through. He really needs to focus down these Banshees, though. They are doing quite a lot of damage. There are 3 of them out, and
He's
these
got to
queens
build more
are
queens.
not going to last forever.
They're running out of energy. He's got to build some more, or else those Banshees
Only
might
one
hold.
Banshee left, though, and there's still 2 queens. One more transfuse, and all the Banshees are dead, and there are more queens in production. I think Benji has got this. There's so many roaches left, and I just can't see any more options left for Refrain. All the units going down, just a few token units in production. Benji's economy is not great, but it doesn't matter. GG, well played from Refrain. Columbia takes a win back.
A nice win. I would almost say a needed win. If Benji wouldn't have been able to take that one home, they would have been down 4-0. But pulling through where it counts for his team, a great win by Benji there.
Yeah, absolutely a big win from Benji, choosing a risky strategy that worked out excellently. Very well done by Benji. I mean, it was a risk that he had to take. Nobody could stop Refrain. Somebody had to do something, and he made it work. And, really maybe could have not worked if Refrain did a different build order, but when things work, you got to give credit where it's due. He pulled through with the win and got the job done. So that's about all we can say about that game.
It looks like the next map, we're going to go away from Boulder Dash back into GSL Daybreak. I mean, this is where we're kind of bouncing back and forth between some of these new maps, some of these unconventional maps. But back to that Roach Queen Eye strategy. That's a strategy that I find so cool. I actually, you actually see the strategy even at the highest level of competition. Effort, in fact, took out Flash Effort did lose 4-3 in the series to Flash from the MVP tournament, but he did win the map on Antigua with that exact same strategy. It's designed to punish the idea that Terrans have that you take this very fast third CC, and it's totally safe as long as you get Banshees, because Zerg can't get anything across the map that can hit air. Just because, Mutalist won't come out for quite a while. Hydrus won't come out for quite a while. Hydrus actually lose to Banshees anyway, pretty much. You don't even really worry about those. Queens are only threatened. They can't get across the map. Benji says, no, I know how I'm going to send them across the map. We're going to throw them into Nidus Worm.
Yeah, absolutely. Very nice strategical play by Benji, pulling through with a big win. And yeah, as you mentioned, we are going back to a GSL map, back to a standard map, that is. Daybreak, pretty much the staple of the standard for the past year or so. Pretty much, the go-to map for all races for a standard fair macro game. In any of the Zerg matchups, it should be pretty balanced, I would assume. There's no real standout imbalance on this map for sure. And we'll be glad to see another tried and true classic map in play.
It looks like we got Benji on Daybreak. And you know what? Daybreak is a map that I think most Zerg players are happy to play on. The question is, who is NYU going to use against him? The fact that it's Daybreak, it almost could be another Zerg player, although I could actually see Tyrann or Protoss are both, it's not like they don't have their chances on Daybreak. It's proven to be, a little bit of a slightly Zerg favorite map, but not by any significant margin of error. If you've got a Protoss or Tyrann who loves a macro game, this is still a great map for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Daybreak, a whole lot of options out there for NYU. I'm not actually sure if the team picks the map or not. I don't think so.
Oh, it might be a preset map here.
Yeah.
That could be. That would explain a lot of these map picks. But in any case, they get to pick the player that they're going to throw on next, and they know the map ahead of time. NYU's got so many great players, though. Both these teams are all master players, all very, very high level. The question is watching that last game, Refrain falling, they're saying, all right, you did a good job, we got to take it home. Which one of our players is best suited to knock out this Zerg who's got some really creative builds up his sleeve?
Yeah, we did hear the report that he likes to build drones, though. So, I'm sure he can play a competent macro game as well. Unless their scouting report is totally wrong.
They could be doing it to throw us off. They could be thinking maybe there's some NYU guy sneaking in on a stream who would discover this.
Yeah,
and
NYU is actually paying me right now.
A little bit of spies transitioning. Some of these scouting reports are wrong. Who knows, though? That game, he didn't have too many drones. The next one, we may see it bundle.
Yeah, absolutely. Next player for NYU, I don't know. Oh, we do have a Zerg player from NYU called Infestion. I don't know if that's supposed to be Infestation, but it says Infestion on my paper. So I think it's Infestion.
Could mean that he likes those infestors. He's going to infest in this whole map. And one thing, Zerg versus Zerg can often come down to infestor control. Of course, the openings can be even more exciting with some insane speeding action.
All right, so we have a quote from each player on this match. Infestion, the Master Zerg from NYU, says, I like drones. And that's not the same guy, so they both like drones from what we've heard so far. They both really like
Seems
to build
like
drones.
a Zerg theme here. These Zerg players really like their drones.
And the quote from Benji on the last game was, I saw the rocks and I knew they had to be destroyed. Very philosophical method of reasoning here by Benji, our Zerg player. When there are rocks, sometimes you just gotta destroy them.
Sometimes you do. Dustin Browder might be a little bit upset about seeing the rocks go down, but Benji sure wasn't, as that resulted in a nice win for him.
Absolutely. All I can think of is that gif of the Marine attacking the rocks and Dustin Browder cheering. I almost want to pull that up just because it's so funny. But we don't have time for such shenanigans. We just have to ask the players if they are ready, because we are ready to go into game number 5. Yes, that's right. Yeah, it's 3-1 in favor of NYU, with Benji bringing back the last game for Columbia after a quick 3-0 deficit, and both players are ready. So we'll be getting started with game 5 on Daybreak.
Daybreak is such an interesting ZVZ map. It's one where I see actually Mutalist play. Probably out of all the maps, it's the one where you see Mutalist the most common. Of course, there still are a lot of speed lean aggression openings, especially with a player we notice. They both claim they like drones. We notice Benji. He's not afraid to get aggressive early, like in that last game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, ZVZ is a matchup that players who are traditionally macro Zergs do tend to mix it up, just because ZVZ is so much about throwing your opponent off guard, and you just can't play the same strategy in ZVZ every time and expect to get away with it. It just doesn't work like that. Every strategy in ZVZ has a pretty specific counter that you can't defeat just by reactive play alone. If you like to expand and drone up a lot and skip Zergling speed or something like that, you are going to get busted by an early link baneling attack. There's just no way around it. There are just so many ways to punish Zerg players with the proper strategy, as a Zerg, of course. So, we could see almost anything from either of these players. Benji is the pink Zerg in the bottom left, representing Colombia, and Infestion, the green, in the top right, representing NYU. Both, of course, master-level players. We should hopefully see a really interesting ZVZ here.
You know what? One thing I've seen that these players say they both like their drones, and weird thing that means they like to make a lot of them. But if we think back in some of these past games, I mean, we saw, for example, Refrain. Every single game, the SCVs were at the front line. They were like the prisoners. You send them in first because you just don't care if they die. Whereas we saw Benji, even when he opened very aggressively in the last game, I mean, he had to do damage. He was playing so aggressive, getting those lances in his opponent's
Every
base.
drone counts.
He never sent the drones in. He's like, you know what? These guys, I like them. We're going to have them just mine minerals, let my other units do the fighting. And so I think that's what these players are meaning, more than necessarily their joy of constructing a lot. They just don't want to risk their lives. Every drone they build is like one of their children.
An interesting perspective here from our expert on Zerg psychology. We have a spawning pool first coming down from Benji. I believe it was a 15 pool, maybe 14. I believe it was 15 though. And a hatch first from our green Zerg, Infestion. Infestion also immediately taking the gas right after the hatchery, so he's going to be getting that pretty quick Zergling speed after his expansion. While Benji is going to follow up his spawning pool with his expansion of his own. I feel like this opening slightly favors Infestion, but in the long run, depending on who makes more drones at the correct time, it's not really going to play a major part in the outcome of this game.
One thing that I find really interesting about the openings is, popular StarCraft 2 top player history they've all been saying a hatch first is better than the 15 pool 16 hatch. But one thing I've noticed is that there's a new way of doing this build. That some of these pro league guys are just switching over right now, especially I've noticed Soyk, he loves this build a lot. They've been doing it, and they've been able to maintain exactly the same economy from a slight difference. They open to 15 pulls, so you're not vulnerable to early pulls. They don't make any Zerglings out of it unless they see, if as long as they know their opponent's not coming at them aggressively, they only make drones, and they actually get their second queens out before their opponent. They get their first inject done, and their hatchery is only moments behind. They can actually get a higher drone count if they skip all the Zerglings and just rely on the queens for defense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the pool hatch is not far behind the hatch pool economically at all. So, which is why I said, the economic difference will mostly come on who makes more Zerglings, who makes more drones, what choices do they make with their units. We do have a third queen actually on the way for Benji, so that's a little bit of an interesting choice. Kind of suggests that he's going to be playing a more defensive style, as you really can't afford to spend that extra money on a third queen if you plan on early aggression in ZVZ. The drone counts are just so low that every mineral really matters, and that 150 on a defensive unit is certainly not going to be very useful if you're on the attack.
Look at Infestion, nothing but speed lanes out of that production tab. He's at an evading nest. Benji's got to get his own defensive banings up pretty quickly. Well, actually, he's already got a spine core on the way. He's got 3 queens. That means he'll definitely have a transfuse available. This is going to be so key in him holding off these mass beatings.
Yeah, absolutely. He's going to need to detect that this is coming rather quickly. So actually, interestingly enough, Infestion goes after the spine crawler, but really doesn't do a whole lot of damage to it, and loses quite a number of Zerglings. In fact, 6 Zerglings gone down already for Infestion. That's certainly not going to help his attack. And Benji is now a little bit aware of the threat. He's got his baneling nest of his own, only a few seconds behind, as well as some link production coming out here now, and his drone count is just marginally higher. This is actually really ideal for Benji. You just want to be a few drones higher than your opponent so you can comfortably hold the attack while maintaining the economic edge, and all drones are also even in the main. Very smart play by Benji, keeping everything safe, just holding this off in the most safe and efficient way possible. And here come the Zerglings. Benji does have his speed done, so it's not going to be an easy fight for Infestion. These Zerglings, it's all going to come down to these banelings. I mean, Baneling's not getting any big hits yet, but they
Oh,
still
with
could.
Benji's Banelings, as long as he keeps his spine crawler, he should be defended.
Oh!
Massive Baneling explosion there. Benji defends convincingly, and this is all because of that great overhead spread. Let him know what was coming up. In fact, I mean, now the attack's done, if we actually switch over to Benji's point of view here real quick, we can see that look at this map vision. The instant his opponent starts sending those speedings across the map, he knew exactly what was going on, and he defended 100% appropriately.
Yeah, absolutely. Very excellent defense there by Benji. I mean, the great part I really liked about his defense is he's made the exact right number of drones in all situations. He is now continuing drone production as his opponent is, just always being a few drones ahead while defending every attack comfortably. And he's actually going to take the initiative a little bit here with a slightly larger link count. If I were him, I would not push the advantage too much, as Banelings are a bit scary. That wasn't too bad.
One thing he knows was that the way his opponent opened, his opponent is knocking out a spine core, so that if he threatens aggression, his opponent has to build Zerglings. Whereas, as long as he knows his opponent's on the other side of the map, he's still got a spine core, a few Banelings for defense. He can just crank out drones like crazy while forcing his opponent to continue to build those Banelings.
A little bit of risky play is going on everywhere. Banelings exploding all over the place. Oh, random Baneling comes through big, taking out a number of Zerglings there on the path.
Infestion is angry. He says, "You're taking out my Zerglings. My Banelings want revenge." Those Banelings are all hurt. A nice explosion there, though, getting 6 Banelings. They're coming in, but with the Queens and Spine Core, how close will they get?
No, I don't think any drones are going to go down here yet. Banelings easily dispatched of. One thing to note is that this hatchery isn't half health, so if a lot of Banelings just kind of explode next to that hatchery, during the midst of the fight, could get dangerously low to cracking. Dangerously close to cracking, excuse me. But Benji does have a Roach Warren now done, as well as an Evolution Chamber. So once he gets a decent, 6+ roaches on the field, it's going to be a lot harder for Infestion to break, but there is a timing window here with these Banelings morphing now. 4 roaches in production, but also 8 Banelings in production. If he hits just as these roaches are kind of coming out, and Benji is not really entirely in position and just loses a few too many units before reacting, it could put him in major trouble. There is the Spine Crawler, there are the extra Queens, but this hatchery could be under
The Banelings are coming in.
Oh,
The
nice
Roach!
job by Benji.
The Roach knocking out several of them. Great focus fire. And
Yeah.
that Roach is still alive. It's finally going to go down, but it's done its job. And Infestion with only Speedings is not going to be able to make the break here.
Benji definitely defending decisively there once again. Very excellent job. Taking out 4 Banelings with his 2 and cleaning up another 2 with 1 Roach. So basically, Infestion only had 2 Banelings left for any sort of serious offensive, and Benji managed to dispatch of those with ease as well. More and more Zerglings coming out from Infestion, and the drone count is only slightly in favor of Benji, but he does have the tech advantage as well, with roaches and upgrades both on the way.
Exactly, and once he gets a decent roach count, that means that Infestion's Banelings are going to be obsolete. Of course, Speedings do very well against roaches, but not if Benji has a few Banelings with his roaches. This is going to be such a hard course. It is going to be such a hard for. Oh yeah, +1 means the roaches can actually 2-shot those Zerglings. Not to mention that Baneling's going to get some kills as well. Infestion's going to have to struggle to hold this. He might need to throw up Spine Crawlers.
Yeah, absolutely. We are still unsure if Benji does plan to go on the offensive here with more roaches or just drone up behind his tech advantage. Looks like Infestion is actually moving around for a counterattack while Benji progresses across the map.
He's got to do some serious damage to the counter because that roach force is going to be so
though.
hard. There's no Spine Crawlers on the way though. Infestion out the singles. He's going to try to hold it with just pure Speedings.
This is going to be risky on both sides though. Roach is moving into the natural while Ling's kind of being
so many
indecisive.
Speedings getting in though. Actually, the Queen's doing a decent job at pathing those.
Wow.
If he can hit a transfuse.
Oh, and the
Doesn't
Benji's
even need
Queens
to.
somehow live, and he's losing more drones than he
But
needs
he's defended.
to. But over
Can
here, big Baneling not quite going off how he wants, but there's only 10 Lings in production, and that is not going to be enough to hold off these 7 roaches.
So many drones. The drones are trying to defend him, but these are the units he likes the most. These are his children. They're retreating from the action, saying, you know what? Let's let these Speedings deal with it. This Alera can take a little bit of a beating before we need to worry about it.
Yeah, I actually don't think that Benji can take out this lair. What he's going to want to do is just tuck these roaches away and be as obnoxious as possible until they do finally fall. If we take a look at the drone count, he is at a sizable advantage. So basically, these roaches just want to get as much done as they can and then, kind of bite the dust and save it for another day. Benji, however, is going to rally some more roaches.
I mean, he's got an advantage as long as he can keep Infestion from rebuilding his economy. He's eventually going to win by war of attrition. He doesn't even have to make great unit trades. He just has to make any type of unit trades, and Infestion won't be able to keep up with him because of that massive drone lead that Benji has.
Yep, Hydra's Den going up for Benji, but it is unsure if he will really need it.
I think he's worried about Mutas. Look at that, 2 Spore Crawlers and the Hydra's Den on the way.
Yeah,
I don't think he realizes it's a very safe play. It's a little more expensive than it would have been just to grab an Overseer and Scout, but either way, he's going to make sure that it's a safer method of making sure he doesn't die anything funny, because he knows he has a substantial advantage in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, while you do bring up a great point, it would be nice to see him scout a little bit more thoroughly, but, you know, given the information that he has, you know you've got a big advantage. You can afford to spend some money on tech that may save you in a dangerous spot. And these roaches are taking out quite a few lanes, being pretty cost efficient, which is exactly what he needs. He doesn't need to like kill off a whole bunch more drones. He just needs to kind of keep the initiative, keep Infestion from building as many drones as he really wants. As we see, the drone count is still heavily in favor of Benji. Tech advantage also in his favor, taking a third. Everything is going well for Benji.
It really is. He's building up. He's actually just going to keep rallying units out there. It looks like some more units coming around the bottom. Are those are sending roaches 3 at a time is going to get. They're going to lose their efficiency if you don't bulk them up. But 9 more in production. They're starting to pop out already. Still doubling his opponent in supply. When is he just going to say, all right, enough is enough? I'm going to build up a force that he can't stop and move out. Infestion with the counterattack at the third. Is he going to force a cancel here? That could be a big win for him.
Yeah, it definitely would be a nice thing to have going for him, but at the same time, he's still only on 2 bases with a much lower drone count and weaker tech. I mean, if this were to go on 2 bases, I would still give Benji the decisive advantage because he just has more efficient units and he's got more of them. Simple as that. These roaches are going to do a little bit more damage here, and I mean, Infestion's gonna have to pull his lings back to defend, and more units are coming up over here. So I still think Infestion could be in really big trouble here. He is trying to make a Spire, but
if he loses those queens, that's going to be no more Larvin checks, which means he won't be able to keep up with the Zerging Rally, and the Zerging Rally is what's really needs to stop these roaches. Now, I mean, he might get a few Mutas out, but by the time his Mutas can knock these roaches out, he's going to take so much damage. Oh, more Spinnies come here. Is there quite enough? These roaches are just tearing them apart. Yeah. And the Lair's coming under fire. That Lair might go down.
Yeah, this Lair is definitely in serious trouble, and I mean, if the Lair falls more importantly than the tech, it's really just that he's not going to have an expansion anymore, and more
his
more
main's
roaches.
running out. If he loses his natural, he's only down to a few patches at the main.
All right, yeah. Definitely big trouble for Infestion. I mean, he doesn't have a lot left, and these Mutas are not going to be enough to save him as he calls GG.
Benji taking 2 in a row. He's 1 game short of eating up this series, saying, you know what? Refrain took out 3 of my friends. I'm going to take out him and 2 of his to try to even the score. He's taking out Refrain. Yeah. He's taking out Infestion. 1 more win, and it'll be a tied-up match.
Yep, we are at 3-2 in favor of NYU. To recap, we had Refrain take out the Protoss player Besta from Colombia in Game 1 to go to 1-0. Then in Game 2, took out the Terran PengWin from Colombia. Game 3, took down the Protoss, what was his name, Bargak from Colombia.
Yes.
And in Game 4, Benji took 1 back for Colombia, bringing it to 3-1, taking out Refrain. And Benji just won Game 5 for Colombia over Infestion. So we are at 3-2 for NYU. In this show match here at NYU FallCraft, a great event hosted by CSL. Big thanks to the Game Center for hosting us. Tonight is also the last night to sign up for the season of CSL, the Azubu Collegiate Champions League. A very big development for the CSL. Azubu, a really nice sponsor that they have picked up. Go to cstarleague.com and check that out. We've got a great match going on here, so I hope you guys still continue to tune in and enjoy.
Our next map is going to be Rocks on a Ship, my personal favorite of all the maps made in this map jam competition. I mean, once we get this hosted up, we can let you guys take a look at it. I think it's absolutely cool. Trying to just find it here. Looks like it's, of course, with SC2 balance system, there's 2 different search options, and doesn't always pop up on the one you might want it to.
Yep.
So we've got Benji here. Rocks on a Ship is such a unique map.
Yeah, I know we do. I know it was one of your favorites. We were not all in favor of certain maps, but this is one that Axlab really picked out as one that he liked. And it's definitely not a bad map by any means. A unique map utilizing rocks, of course, as was our theme. And it looks a little bit like a ship. You can describe how you see that if you want.
Kind of, at the top left and bottom right, there's a little jet thrusters behind the ship. But the part I really like about it is on the center right. So there's the main at the top right and the main at the bottom right. And their naturals go to the left of their base. Of course, that's where the entryways happen. But the really exciting part of this map for me is on the far right, there's back-to-back bases. You can't walk along their right side, by the way, just so you guys know. It's actually blocked by minerals. You both have little backdoor bases that are touching each other. And it's going to be, of course, it's going to be tough to mine because your opponent can just shoot your workers over those mineral patches. And this is a feature that they had on a map called Outsider in Broodor. That was like my favorite Broodor map ever. Of course, it was a little bit different there, a little more spaced out. But this idea of these back doors that get opened up as people mine out bases, I think is just really awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing we really liked about these maps submitted today is that a number of them were not both well-constructed maps with very good use of the terrain and stuff, but they had unique concepts utilizing our theme of destructible rocks. So really solid effort from our map designers here at our map jam, both here on site at NYU Game Center and across the world on the internet. And we should be getting our players in here shortly.
We've got Benji in here.
Benji and
the defending champion, we could say.
Not
although,
sure
of course,
the next one is.
His team is still down just a little bit. I gotta say, if I was a team coming in looking at rocks on a ship, I would put a Terran player in for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Controlling those back rocks with siege shanks, you basically get 2 bases for the price of 1. Although, of course, Zerg can be so annoying on those back lines with infestors or with mutalists. It looks like the next player is going to be VictorX.
Yeah, Victor, also known as VictorX. He is a random player, and he says he is a random player because he loves StarCraft so much that he doesn't want to limit himself to just playing 3 matchups. He wants to enjoy the full StarCraft game. And he says he's not feeling too confident about this match. Unfortunately for the NYU team, could be another tough loss for them. But VictorX, someone who enjoys the game is definitely someone I feel comfortable putting out there, who's just going to have fun, win or lose, do the best he can.
That's definitely the right attitude. Of course, random is such a fun way to play. And on a map like this, where it's actually quite a long scouting distance with your initial scout, that random could be a nice advantage. Although, of course, Benji is Zerg, and the air distance isn't quite as far, so that Overlord scout could come into play. Yeah,
absolutely. Our quote from Benji is, "Anything can happen at FallCraft." Probably feeling a little confident after taking 2 solid victories. He's at least done his job. Of course, although Columbia is still down, he would want to take even more games. It seems like both teams also hard at work trying to figure out what the best strategies for this map would be, deciphering the little tricks and subtleties. That's the word I'm trying to.
All the little map subtleties there, trying to figure out their best approach to it. And I think that's really, really cool. Like the whole team's here. They're doing the hull. They're supporting their player. They're trying to figure out, yes, Victor, you're the guy going up against Benji, but really you're representing all of us. We're all here to help you get prepared the best you can to take this guy on. And this guy's not an easy guy to take on. He's already knocked out 2 NYU players.
Yeah, absolutely. That team effort is something that we really love in StarCraft 2. I remember a story my old manager from VT Gaming, Frank, told when he was on his Chanman V's Climbing the Ladder show. So basically there was this MLG about a year and a half ago, the first one that I ever went to, MLG Dallas 2011. And it was our first MLG as a team, and we were really excited. And every big match that our team had, I remember for me, I was playing Fnatic Phoenix, formerly Fnatic Phoenix. And my whole team was in their hotel room, looking through Phoenix's games and his match history on the computer. We were all trying to figure out what the best options were. And when we went into the match, I wasn't feeling too confident. My TVT was really crappy back then, and I couldn't defeat a good Terran player for my life. But I still managed to come through with a 2-0 victory with some well-prepared strategies. So it really shows that these players, you could do a lot of great things with a team effort behind you. You can do good things for your confidence. Strategy, of course, a big part on these interesting maps. And it's just, team events are really fun, and being part of a CSL team or a professional team of any kind is definitely a great experience.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, Victor's got all the support in the world for him. I mean, we can see the Columbia team is so close. They all got those synchronized hoodies. I mean, they train so much. The CSL is actually, it's a big deal. And even though some of these maps are a little bit unique, that doesn't mean they're going to be messing around. It means that they're going to be putting in more work to try to figure out the best approach to these maps.
Absolutely. These players, it's been great to see them play so far. I mean, I feel pretty comfortable saying that I've seen a pretty decent level of play from these guys. I mean, I wouldn't put it past me to drop a game from one of these guys if I were to face off against them in the CSL. Definitely a very competitive league, and definitely great to be involved in, and I have had a blast casting these games.
Yeah, most definitely. Why don't we actually talk a little bit more about the map? We can bring it up there. We mentioned, of course, the back rocks. The walking distance, of course, you have to go left from your main and walk up through the middle. But there's also some interesting bases at the bottom left and top left of the map that are relatively easy for the players who are respectively closer to those locations to grab, but if their opponent takes out destructible rocks from certain areas, they can open those up to some great counterattacks. Another base at the center left, just right in the middle of the map, but on the far left side, that's got a rich Vespene gas, very contested base. Of course, there's a little bit of high ground right to the right of that that's going to be very contested as well. As that high ground, whoever controls that is really going to control the main walking and ground path of this map.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are a couple different paths on this map by ground. Of course, the leftmost one across the border of the map, the middle one that is the shortest distance at the start, and the right side that gets opened up possibly later in the game, depending on if these players can mine out these bases. So it's a really unique map that utilizes our destructible rock theme very well. So that is why we love it, and that's why we're playing it.
Let's see here. Is VictorX ready to join the fray? Not quite yet. Still trying to figure out how to approach this map. This is actually going to be... we've already gone through Gemini. We've already gone through Boulder Dash. This here in Game 6 is going to be... I'm pretty sure it's the last of our unique maps. We might have one more in store for you later, but these maps are really going to tell the tale. If you think back on it, both teams have taken one map off of so we had NYU won Gemini, but then Columbia came back and won the second one, Boulder Dash. So we can really see that even when you throw in these unique maps, both teams are really prepared to deal with it. They're both handling the uniqueness of the situation at a fairly even level, and I think they're doing such a good job of playing a high-performance game on these maps because it's not just the one guy trying to figure out what to do. It's the whole team behind him.
Absolutely. All right, VictorX is indeed ready. I think I'm just going to call him Victor.
Yeah, Victor's good. That way also, one great thing about people who have the same ID as their actual name is when you talk to him, you're never confused, right? You're like, hey, Victor, you don't have to translate mentally what his real and what his pseudonym is. Of course, looks like we're just waiting for the go from Benji. He's got two notches on his belt. He's going for the third on Rocks on a Ship. Yep.
And as Axel was mentioning about the names, we actually both do share the same first name, so it can be a little confusing at times since we, often are referred to by our aliases. But here we're both Nick, and it can be a little confusing at times. Anyway, we got Benji versus VictorX. Actually, I don't even know if Benji's real name is Benji, but I don't know.
I have no idea. We're going to call him Benji, though, because that's what his ID in the game is. And looks like Benji's in the bottom right. The Peng Zerg won 2 games already for Columbia, looking for his third win. VictorX at the top right is the green Protoss. He's with NYU. They're leading 3-2. If he wins here, they'll be in a game point match.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually not 100% sure. Did he random or did he pick Protoss? I mean, I know he's a random player.
He did play random.
Okay, so he did pick random. So Benji is at a loss when it comes to preparing a strategy for the race. So that's definitely something that's a challenge. Being on a new map against a mystery race, it's definitely not going to do the best for your confidence. You just so many variables to take into account. VictorX starting off with the pylon down on the low ground. This is a unique natural here, but it can be forge expanded with both bases protected from this choke. I maybe would have liked to see the pylon back here a little bit, and then the gateway and the forge walling this off. But, of course, a new map is always very tough to learn these proper wall-ins for a Protoss player.
Yeah, not a big deal. There's probably actually several different ways to wall in. It's not a terribly huge choke. But meanwhile, a fast scout by Victor, that's going to give away his race. And
yeah,
Benji's going to be a little bit breathing easier knowing that, knowing exactly what he's up against.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, while, of course, the standard is for the Protoss player to scout his timing, would not have been out of the question to see him scout on his forge, or not forge.
With the gateway, a little bit of mixing it up here. Is he going to open 2 gateways? This could be a Brutor-esque 2-gate pressure.
Yeah, and actually, since he saw the probe scout, and since he's scouting here with this Overlord, this looks like a forge expand when you see the main. I mean, there's nothing. He's even chrono boosting probe, so there's nothing to indicate that a 2-gateway opening is in fact coming. He might even pylon block the natural as well. It's definitely possibility, as he will kind of need a pylon.
He does need a pylon, but it's also, when you do these openings, it's a little harder to squeeze in that 100 middles of pylon block. Ooh, Benji taking a different location of his natural. This is even further from his main rally point. This could put him in a tough spot against these Zealots, but his over is going to see it now. And I think as long as he slams out non-stop Zerglings from his hatcheries, he should be okay there.
Yeah, I mean, it is going to be tough to hold this hatch nonetheless. I mean, if a number of Zealots are chronoed out and they get into a good position, it could be tough, but there won't be warp gates or anything for
really
reinforcements.
Fast roach warn by Benji. This is interesting because he's on such low economy. He won't be able to get very many roaches in off creep.
But just a few of those can really make a difference against Zealots.
They really can, but it's also a huge investment. It's going to be much less minerals to throw in units. He's got 200 mineral or 150 minerals in a roach warren, 50 minerals in a drone used for roach warren, another 50 minerals for the gas, another 50 minerals for a drone for the gas. That's all potential Zerglings and Queens that aren't going to be on the defense. Of course, those roaches are going to come out really fast, and even though he is really hurting his economy to get them out, he could actually throw in a counterattack off the backs of those roaches.
Yeah, one thing to note is that VictorX has not actually seen this natural, this third base, or, you know what I'm saying, from Benji.
We'll call it the natural.
He doesn't know that it's there, so he might be a little slow to move out with these Zealots because he doesn't know that his timing window is rapidly closing. He thinks maybe he could be up against an all-in or a weird one-base build, but he is in fact up against a fast expansion, and with the 2 bases, 2 Victors 1, he will have the early economic advantage. Victor is going to be taking the natural now. 1 Zealot may get picked
a little bit of kiting there, trying to avoid the fast attack rate of Zerglings.
Oh, nicely done. He traded the
3.
Zealot for 3. Yeah, could be far worse, and he's going to take out the 4th for free. So an even trade there. And 4
I would
Zealots.
almost say a win in this situation because those larvae for Benji were so much, whereas
absolutely.
Victor, of course, has plenty of Zealots. Roaches are on the field, but as long as they're off creep, they can't really cut the Zealots too effectively. But how many roaches
nice
can
control.
he get out? Yeah.
Pulling back the weak Zealot, but he will need to back off as soon as he gets on creep. I don't think it is wise to continue pressuring in this situation. He's got his natural on the way, but of course, Benji will immediately take that 3rd as well. So it's a tough spot for Victor because he knows he's got to do something here. I mean, he's going to have to make a cannon probably to stop these roaches from doing a whole bunch of damage. I don't like that cannon position.
He's definitely leaving the gateway and pylon at the bottom as well. Very vulnerable. He's going to have to add in a second cannon, or just be content to get enough Zealots to hold off on their own. There goes the second cannon. The problem here, though, is those cannons can't protect each other. If enough roaches come in, they could isolate one of those cannons and fight them one at a time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a tough position for Victor. Roaches are definitely not easy to hold off with purely Zealots, but he actually is doing a good job of using this ramp and the site to push back the roaches, except he changed his mind. He doesn't really want to use that anymore.
He was just trying to buy a little bit of time for his cannons to get up. Now they're up. The Zealots are trying to hide. Those roaches might have found a sweet spot, though. Did they?
Taking a little damage, but they got a couple Zealots down.
Yeah, definitely worth it there. Is he going to lose a roach? He's got to pull the red ones back. There he goes, pulling the red ones back, saying, you guys, you're in the wrong place.
Clever play by Victor, moving his hurt Zealot around to the other side. Cybernetics core. Oh, wow. That's such a late Cybernetics core from Victor. He must have forgotten it as he's already up to 300 gas. That's really painful. His tech is going to be so late, and he's already got 4 gas up because he didn't know what to spend his minerals on with such a late core, so that's definitely a big blow towards Victor. Not going to be able to do any pressure for quite a while with no warp gate, no stargate possible for at least another minute or two.
With the amount of resources he has saved up with this map architecture, I would actually really love to see double Stargate going down here.
Yeah, I think that might be it.
There goes a single Stargate, but
No,
getting
there's
2
plus-
sentries, getting +1 air weapons. Oh, this could be the start of a
He
double
needs to
Stargate
cancel
play.
this.
And the Stargates have so many different options they have. Of course, the natural base of Benji is very, very close. You can harass the back of those minerals so easy with Void Rays. Not to mention, there's that double base on the right side. The air is going to be so strong at controlling, not only to kill the rocks quickly so you can go ahead and take your base there, but then also to deny the drones mining on the corresponding other side.
Yeah, I mean,
He's already got a probe mining. He wants to make sure that his Zerg opponent isn't trying to sneak away through those minerals.
Yeah, I gotta say though, I mean, I really would have liked to see double Stargate here. Oh, there is a second Stargate, but it is so late. I mean, like, if he didn't make these 2 sentries right away, I don't know where
I think
they
he
went.
was scared of a Master Roach follow-up. That's really the only explanation. And of course, I mean, given he saw the Roaches coming at him early, it wasn't an unreasonable fear.
Yeah.
But Void Rays do a great job against those as well. There's that little dog walking around this map. He seems a little bit lost.
Are we on Dog Ridge? He perhaps fell off Dog Ridge.
I think he did. Dog Ridge, of course, the map that Charlie and I made for this map jam competition. Didn't quite make it into the top 3. Some really biased judges voted it out. Don't know what was wrong with that, but one dog did make it into this map. And Victor, on with those double Void Ray production.
Yeah, we do have 2 more Void Rays on the way. Excuse me. 1 is already out. +1 air weapons will be out as well. I mean, I gotta say, I really would have liked him to see to kind of take more of a risk and commit heavier to the Stargate play earlier, because at this point, like, it's a double Stargate, which is already like a commitment, but it's kind of late. Like, if he went even like 3 Stargate the second the core was down and just did something really crazy, like, it's possible that he would have been really able to catch Benji off guard. But at this point, Benji's just got to be wondering, what the heck are you doing? And now he did actually get a scout in. I don't know what that was, but something died. Maybe it was a changeling? Yeah, I think
Probably
that might have been a
it. Not sure, but anyways,
It was something.
What's going on now? You can see Victor is opting. This map we've already mentioned. The ground distance is quite long, whereas the air distance is relatively shorter along that right-hand path, or just even between the naturals. Victor is opting to go for airplay to take advantage of this fact, whereas Benji,
I don't know,
he's researching drop, and you know what?
He's also
If
getting
he
inspired.
can get enough roaches on maybe even drop him on the far
Wow.
right on the other side of that mineral patch.
Very nice control by Victor, not losing very much HP on these Void Rays at all, and taking out, going to be a Queen and a Spore Crawler very quickly. Oh, the
Meanwhile,
Queen
the
actually-
counterattack at the front of the Protoss. These
this is
roaches,
gonna be tough, but
they
there are
have
4
an evil
sentries.
intent.
There are 4 sentries, but if you're not paying attention and these sentries go down, all right.
There's no damage output from the Protoss.
Yeah.
Only a single cannon and 2 stalkers. The sentries can buy
He's gonna have
time.
Void Rays soon, though.
Oh, those
If
Void
these
Rays,
Void
he's
Rays
gotta get
come
those
out,
out.
he's going to be able to clean it up. And these Void Rays here are having
They're taking out
plenty
the
of
hatchery.
success. And there's a Spire coming up here, but, if we've got 2 Phoenixes at a time, I don't know if that Spire is going to be enough.
He might be able to get the Void Rays, which could give him some semblance of map control. Of course, Spore Crawler there, saying back up a little bit, Void Rays. Victor's like, I could power down that Spore, but what's the point? Trading some Void Ray life for a Spore that's not even defending anything anymore because that hatchery's down. Why not go for the heart of the Zerg, try to do some critical damage? Benji, what's his answer to these Void Rays?
Yeah, the key here is going to be what's going to go on with this air. It's going to be Corruptors. In fact,
Only 3,
but
though.
He doesn't have a lot of minerals. He's going to lose this Evolution Chamber, which is not his only one, so he's still going to be able to make spores. But he's going to go straight for the lair, and that could be a big blow. This Queen going to try to delay as long as possible. But
He's got to get more Corruptors out. Now up to 7.
7.
But 7 can definitely do the job, but not if they're rallying one
I
at
don't
a time.
know. Against 4 charged Void Rays? I don't even know if 7's enough, to be honest.
Oh, yeah, with the fully
4
charged
pre-charged,
option, those
yeah.
Void Rays will melt them. The lair's gone down at this point. Oh, and the
Corruptors
Corruptors are getting
taking
picked off
damage.
as they're coming out 1 and 2 at a time. He's trying to send him in now,
boy.
but he's only got a few fighting against these Void Rays are charged. They're killing the Corruptors right as they pop out.
Yeah, VictorX with a big play with this double Stargate, and these Corruptors are falling rapidly. I don't know if Corruptors was the right choice here. Hydralisks are really the emergency defense option for
They really are.
the air.
The
That's-
Hydra Den builds so much faster in Aspire. You can field them so much faster. And these Void Rays are not going to be stopped.
Yeah, we really need the support from a Spore or a couple Queens to make these Corruptors really effective. They just have
Oh, look at that Micro pulling the herd Void Ray back.
Oh, but there's
so more Corruptors. I think
Corruptors.
these Void Rays, they cannot run the Corruptors. Did they have reinforcements though? He's got some more green up there.
Oh my god.
3 more Void Rays if he can meet up with these.
It's going to be close either way, though. These Void Rays are no longer charged, and a number of them are injured, while there are 9 strong Corruptors out.
And Corruptors outrun Void Rays. He's got to get those
it's going to be close.
If he can get it back to his natural, maybe he can get some Stalker support, and that could be the one thing that could save it. There they are.
Plenty of Stalkers here, but Roach Drop going on in the back.
Where did those guys come from?
They came from right here in these Overlords.
Move. Of course, the Stalkers did say the Void Rays, and those Void Rays are going to make quick work of those Roaches.
Roach is trying to find somewhere to run, but not going to happen today. A few more Roaches on the other side. Weird situation, as Benji has actually taken like the entire map while this was going on somehow.
I mean, he lost so many Queens and hatcheries that his production really wasn't quite up there. He's actually doing decently on drones. The one thing to note here, though, even though VictorX did great damage, VictorX is still on 2 bases, and while the economy is roughly equal because Benji has a few drones, if we look at the main of the Protoss, it's probably almost out.
That is true. He's
going to be down to 1 base econ, whereas Benji's main might be out as well, but he can just move those drones. He's got so many bases. Victor, though, trying to remedy this.
This timing, though, is going to be huge. I mean, Victor's got a lot of Stalkers and Void Rays, and that works pretty good against Roaches and Corruptors. He's really just going to need to turn these drones and turn this economy into mass units. And he's got a little too many drones at this base for optimal mining. But if we take a look at the Harvester count, he's up by a little. You know, if he can just pump out as many units as possible, I think he could hold this off.
He's got to get a ton of speedlings because those...
it's going to be close. I don't know.
Corruptors trying to... The Stalkers are focusing the Corruptors. A great choice. They're realizing he can't win the ground battle. The Stalkers won't do it. But if he can kill the Corruptors, the Void Rays can then go to town.
Yeah, Corruptor's getting in some free hits. It's really going to depend on these Void Rays, especially since there are no more Void Rays in production. So basically, if all these Void Rays go down, it's going to be a lot harder for Victor to press forward, as he won't have that option of the air units to, that added threat of Benji, maybe having to make more Corruptors or something.
Oh, there's no more Void Rays in production, but guess what? Carriers are on route.
Oh, boy.
That could really mix things up a bit. Benji, though, is he going to knock out these proxy pylons? That could be a critical... If he can kill his pylon, Victor won't be able to reinforce his army, and Benji might be able to run it down the trap. But his speed encounter looks like it's heading up to the 3rd. Victor needs to get this 3rd live. If he loses this 3rd, he will be on really tight strings, economically speaking.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, although, I don't know what about these carriers. I just feel like such a huge investment to take at this point where the game is so tightly contested. The counterattack is going to be driven back. It's hard to say what's going to happen here.
You can never hate a guy for going carriers.
Yeah.
I mean, they're such a cool unit.
Let's have a round of applause for carriers.
Win or lose, you gotta appreciate their use. Benji, he's seeking to make a move on that 3rd base. Looks like he's backing off just a bit. He's going for Infestors, a great choice.
Oh, absolutely.
Speeding Infestor is the go-to mid-game Zerg composition against Protoss, especially when they're going Void Ray plus Gateway units. Infestors, Fungals are so good against that combination. Does he still have a Spire alive?
Yeah, he does. He did make a few more mutas, actually, now.
He may need to replenish that Corruptor count once carriers enter the battle. Ooh, a nice drop.
This
could be so good. Especially as Victor is trying to defend his 3rd base, his army's going to be way out of position to defend the main. A split attack from Benji could do critical damage.
Yeah, absolutely. Benji, while it looks kind of even, the fact is, as these supplies build up, Benji's army is going to be less and less efficient. It is really just Roachling with a few Corruptors mixed in. It's not really an army that handles a large amount of units well. He's really going to need to mix in those Infestors and eventually Tech to Broodlords to handle this large mixed ground and air army from Victor. And Victor's just got plenty of units himself. I mean, when the supplies are even in this kind of situation where Zerg doesn't really have a whole lot of tech, it's really tough for the Zerg to win.
Meanwhile, at the back of the Protoss base, the drops are coming in.
Both in the main and the natural, that's going to make it really tough for this slow army to split between 3 positions. Genius play by Benji, really splitting up his opponent as much as possible. Unfortunately, there's a cannon here that actually might take out this entire drop.
And that cannon is doing work. Carriers were thinking about coming back here. Looks like a great defense by Victor, taking very little damage.
Can he hold this is the question. I'm not quite too sure. It's going to be really close. There are a lot of Roaches here, but still some Void Rays.
Those Void Rays are going to be outnumbered.
I think the Roaches are going to break.
And yeah, the Roaches are definitely going to break, but the question is can Victor get the rest of his army back in time to deal with this or not?
Yeah. I mean, if this Nexus goes down, that's going to be huge.
Oh,
it's going to slow down his
Benji's
economy so
focusing.
much.
Benji knows that Victor's units are coming back home. If he wants to kill this Nexus, he's got to kill it now. He seizes the moment. A great Nexus snipe.
Wow, and getting most of the units out unscathed. Still one roach over here screwing around. It's been a great game so far. I gotta say, this is probably my favorite game of the night. Very back and forth, very action-packed, and still undecided. We got 3 carriers out on the field, and there really is not a whole lot of anti-air. I don't know if he even saw the carriers, and that could put him in a lot of trouble. There are only 4 corruptors out. It's going to be really
Benji.
tough, but there are so many roaches. This ground army is going to get decimated.
And if he can take out the ground army, he can... Oh, the Infestor, though, they're running in. They're not using their abilities. They get taken out.
Oh, my God.
He needs to keep those alive. That's his anti-air there. 3 Infestors going down without using energy. This carrier follow-up could be what ends the game in Benji's favor.
Oh, no.
Or Victor's favor, excuse me.
This is a crazy game, really close. No drops going on anywhere, but there are only 3 bases for Victor. I mean, 2 bases, and only the 3rd just being reconstructed. If Benji can get out these 8 corruptors, he's got a few infestors, enough to hold the carriers in place. And to be honest, carriers are just not too good against a large number of corruptors, but I don't know if this is enough.
Oh, that is a lot. The queens are even coming, and they got plenty of chance feeds available. The corruptors, they leave the warrior just a tiny bit alive, so you can see the carriers die. Those corruptors just took them down without a sweat. Roach's speedings on the ground army. Benji saying, you can throw the arsenal you want to meet.
Benji breaking through this attack. I really thought he was going to be in a whole bunch of trouble there, but he managed to clean up all those expensive carrier coming in here, though.
It's saying, I'm going to take you guys on. Don't even worry about it.
Oh no, these carriers are just going to make it even
They didn't get the memo. They're meeting up for rendezvous with Fleet 1. Fleet 1 is MIA, though. Where'd it go? It's gone. It's gone. Those corruptors ate it up. These carriers are now realizing something's wrong, but it is too late. It was a trap. The corruptors are into action, and man, those carriers are getting absolutely demolished.
Yeah, it's really too bad because those carriers are so expensive. I mean, losing 6 carriers now is just almost an impossible situation to come back from roaches and lings moving in here.
Oh, nice force fields.
Force fields there. Yeah, very impressive actually. Gonna hold on a little bit more, but GG as Benji takes a 3rd straight for Colombia. That was an awesome game.
That really was. I mean, this game here is why this was my map pick. I mean, I knew if you ever watch Outsider and Brood War, you know that map style is going to produce great games here, and it did not fall short here. Of course, the real reason why that game was great was just because of the players. Such great play from both Benji and VictorX, mixing in all the tools of the races, but Benji was the one who was able to close it out there.
Yeah, I mean, definitely a very scrappy, unique game from both players. We will be moving back to a GSL map, Entombed Valley, for our next game. 3-3. I mean, Benji has pulled it back with some impressive play in all types of situations. His crisis management there, he was in a tough spot. It might not have been perfect, but he got it done in the end. I mean, maybe the carriers weren't the best choice. Maybe Victor didn't have the best control. Maybe he didn't do everything perfect. But the fact is, Benji closed it out and got rid of every unit that Victor had and really just took a solid victory in the end of a crazy game.
And Benji is on fire. The momentum's all going for him. But you know what? Even though he's won 3 in a row, because of Refrain's hard work in the opening matches of this tournament, if Benji falls here, NYU will take the lead.
Yeah,
it's tied up 3-3. I mean, he's won 3 in a row, but that's just putting it back on par. This is such a close match. I mean, Benji, of course, he's got to be feeling good, but he can't let up. If he wants to really put his team ahead, he's got to win 1. If he can win 2 more, that would be an all-kill, a great win to put on his resume.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to hold on here for a minute and find out who the next player for NYU will be. Kind of need to go to the bathroom too, so I'm going to do that.
Do that. We can talk a little bit about the potential NYU players. They've got quite a strong roster. They actually have a former Grandmaster on their team, as well as, of course, the rest of them are all Master levels. Very, very, very strong players. And Entombed Valley has got to be a map that Benji's thinking, you know, traditionally this isn't a great map for Zerg versus Protoss, but luckily they just used up one of their, of course, Victor as a random player, but they used up one of the guys who could potentially be in Protoss. Do they have another one to throw at me, or is this going to work out great in my favor? Let's just see who is NYU going to throw in there. When they're looking back at these games, they notice, okay, Refrain, he did such a great job for us, winning 3 in a row, but then Benji took him out. And then, of course, Benji continuing to take out 2 more players in a row. NYU is really on the ropes here. They got to be scrambling to think of, you know, who do we have that can answer this guy? This guy is just such a monster. I mean, his play has been scrappy is one of the best ways to put it. The last game, losing his natural to those Void Rays, seeming to have no answer for the airplay, but he just pulled an answer out of nowhere, saying, you know what? I can be behind, but I'm going to take these bottom left bases. I'm just going to stay on the defensive, rebuild my economy, and then eventually find a way to counter your airplay with that Mass Corruptor answer and take it home for a 3rd win in a row. Looks like we're still waiting for the NYU people to figure out their plan of action. I would really suggest they put a Protoss to field against Benji, especially because they just saw that last series and they can tell how Benji plays, right? He likes to open very macro heavy. He likes to put on some roach aggression. He likes that draw play, and he's not afraid to switch Spire Tech. But one thing to take away from last game, he was hesitant to tech for that hive. Of course, it was a little bit of a crazy game there, a little bit of back and forth. But knowing that a Zerg player doesn't like to tech hive so aggressively, especially on a Tomb Valley, that's going to be a great chance for Protoss to really come back and take win on Tomb, because all those options, the roach aggression, the draw play, they're much easier to defend on a Tomb Valley than on a map like Rocks on a Ship, where we saw last game. There was no way to really parry those drops before they got to his base. And Tomb Valley is such a great defensive map for Protoss. Very easy to establish that 3-base economy. And the Zerg's main answer is the hive play, which we haven't seen on a Benji yet in any of his last 3 games. Okay, it looks like we have some quotes from the players. Benji talking about that last match there. He thought it was a really dynamic, a good map. He had a lot of fun playing on it. He made those spores for the DTs. Unfortunately, when those 3 Void Rays came into play, the spores couldn't quite hold them off. But at least it would have been safe versus the DTs, and he did find an answer for those Void Rays eventually. What else do we have in here? It looks like the NYU team, they're trying to decide who they want to throw out here. It could be a Terran player called APIxTangenT. And you know what? When we asked him about his play style, he said he likes to play Terran. So that's not a super precise description. It could be because he really wants to make sure that his opponent can't get a drop on him. He wants to stay unpredictable and really mix it up there.
Alright, hi guys, I'm back.
Okay, looks like APIxTangenT is in the lobby. He's ready to field his Terran against Benji on a Tomb Valley. And the TVZ on a Tomb Valley I find really, really fun to watch. A lot of it is based around a Terran's ability to really put pressure on the Zerg's 4th. And then, of course, also, it often comes down to what tech the Zerg chooses. Is the Zerg going to rush for Hive, which is fairly common on this map? Are they going to try to control the middle with mass creep and mass speeding flanks? Or are they going to really play a more counterattacking style, maybe with Mutalists, speeding run bys, baiting drops? There's a lot of options in both those fields of play. Benji has really shown he loves the counterattack play. He loves the drops. I mean, in Tomb Valley is actually a decent map for that, but it's more of a map where you kind of do at some point have to go head-to-head with your opponent. Looks like APIxTangenT is in the game. Let's see if the players are ready.
Alright, so we have APIxTangenT. Or APIxTangenT. I'm calling him Tangent. Screw that. We got Tangent taking on Benji. Tangent, of course, coming to challenge Columbia's Benji, who has now taken 3 in a row to even it up. We got a best of 3 here between these two teams, and every match is really going to count from here on. Can Benji finish it off? Or will Tangent bring it back to 4-3 for NYU? I mean, with all the hard work that Benji's done, as we mentioned, just a couple wins can easily throw that out the door. We're going to have a TVZ on Entomb Valley here. I think this map, the favorability for each side really depends on the positions and how the openings go, because it is really nice for turtling Investor Brewlord on 3 or 4 bases, but at the same time, the map is kind of short distance, and there are some nice tank positions. And we do have the close vertical positions, so that it will make it a little tougher for the Zerg player to defend.
It really will, of course. The close horizontal positions are disabled. Those are very, very, very tough for Zergs to deal with. So it's always going to be cross map or close vertical. Close vertical, one of the hardest things Zerg has a time dealing with is the fact that when Terran pushes out of the Zerg, the Terran reinforcements can load up in dropships and really get to that Zerg natural at a very, very quick rate, while the Zerg is still trying to deal with the main push of the Terran. Not to mention the fact that the Zerg's 4th base is not too far away from the Terran. A straight push there, especially with great tank positioning, can be very hard to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's definitely not the ideal positions that Zerg wants. He'd much prefer the cross positions with 3 very easily taken bases and a very reasonable 4th as well. Of course, the 4th is the same either way, but, it just makes it that much easier for the Zerg to hold off that early aggression. A few extra seconds to respond can be the difference between victory and defeat for a Terran versus Zerg matchup, where so much depends on, does the Zerg have enough units to stop any timing attacks that come before he gets that army that he really wants to have in the late game.
One thing that it looks like Tangent is not going to opt for this, but 2 racks is fairly popular here from Terran players, as there's a really great spot right beneath the ramp to the natural where you can put a Marine in there, put a bunker, and the Zerg cannot get to that Marine with drones or Marines. And then, of course, you can use that Marine to then force a bunker up on the high ground where anybody who shoots that bunker is going to be attacked by that Marine. It's a great little utility you can mix in on this map. It looks like Tangent, though. He wants to just play a macro game. No gas hit, single barracks. Looks like it's going to be a very, very classic one-rack expand. Oh, the drone gets taken down, putting some hurt on the SCV, but the SCV calls in some buddies and says, hey, man, this guy punched me. Why don't you guys take care of him? They get their drill bits out, and that drone goes down.
Yeah, interestingly enough, he did make the Natural Command Center before his orbital. Not sure if that's his own unique twist on this opening or just a small error. But we do have the hatch first into pool and a pretty early gas from Benji. So this is not the same style that we've seen before from him. Well, I guess the only ZVT we saw before from him was the crazy Nidus build. But regardless, this is still something a little bit different. So he will be getting fairly early speedlings. And with the closer distances, it could be indicative of an all-in. You might not really want to play these positions as a Zerg player in a macro game. Definitely the possibility for all-in from Benji here.
Yeah, he could do an all-in. He could even do a little bit of a tech aggression build, like the Roach Nidus Queen build he did last game. The other option is some Zerg players like to opt to get about 20 speedlings early in the game, and they try to attack the Terran Natural and get a ton of SCV kills before a Terran can really is prepared for that. If a Terran's not very precise with their bunker positioning, their howling control, they can end up taking some severe damage.
Yeah, absolutely. You really need a bunker in like a tough spot for Zerglings to surround, like over here by the minerals, to make that easily defendable. And actually, with a triple command center build here, an all-in from Benji could be quite effective. Tenet is going to get some scouting in. A little bit of a weird situation has allowed these 2 Marines to kind of both sneak by. Although one reinforcement, either a Marine or an SCV or something, just died over there.
Those Zerglings are vicious. They're willing to... Probably Marine. It was probably 2 Zerglings jump 1 Marine.
Yeah,
of course, one of them died, and the other one got the kill, but was dispatched by a more recent Marine. Benji with the Roach Horn, and Tangent... Not only is he going 3 CCs, he's not even building Marines. His barracks is inactive. This could be very, very tough for him to deal with an onslaught of Roaches.
Yeah, I mean, there is 200 plus gas in the bank. This could be Roaches. Could be Roach speedling. There is no Ling speed, though.
It's got to be Roaches.
Weird.
There goes
be
8 Roaches on the way. That is That's going to be a ton of roaches. The good news for Tangent is because he has 3 mules, he can afford to take a good amount, or almost, he's going to have 3 mules shortly. He can take a good amount of SCV losses. The bad news is that he's still got to eventually deal with those roaches.
Yeah.
And right now he's got 5 Marines, and 8 roaches versus 5 Marines. I'd put my money on the roaches no matter what odds you give me.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you there, and the fact that he's following it up with a reactor and a factory is not gonna make it look any more hopeful for our Terran hero. This is gonna be tough. I mean, the thing, as you mentioned, that he has going for him is that he can really take any number of losses on his economy and still be totally fine. I mean, the worker count is even, and he's got 3 orbitals, so really he can take 10 SCVs and be in the lead. He just can't die.
He's got to
get
the Marines are coming out of the bunker,
die.
and the SCVs
take their spot.
Oh, no.
That's such a tragedy. This bunker is going to be nullified completely.
And these roaches aren't even stopping to kill. There they go, finally stopping to kill. But
I don't even think he needs to do that.
Yeah.
Marching on up, going to have to...
There he goes, getting that SCV. Going even for more SCVs are going down here. That bunker might eventually get up, but there's not going to be any Marines to throw in there. Oh, it's not. The roach is going to focus it down. A Hellion's coming out, but roaches are pretty flame-proof.
Yeah, and I mean, Benji following this up with some drones and a lair, so I mean, even at this point, I think he's done his damage, and there's no way it's going to get cleaned up anytime soon.
Oh,
I don't even think a single roach
Tangent's
has
food
died.
is in single-digit numbers. It's down to 8, and that's all units in production. The reactor goes down. GG from APIxTangenT. And that roach on, I don't even know if a single roach died.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Those roaches were tough, man. They got it done. Benji, 4 wins in a row. Outstanding performance. Really, really boosting Columbia forward in this match.
Yeah, I mean, talking about boosting Columbia forward, he's gotten all the work done here for them after they got put in a really tough spot. And, marches through with a variety of strategies, showing competence in both the early game and the late. So very impressive play from Benji. Again, that's one of those strategies where, could have worked, it might not have. He didn't really know if it was going to work completely, but it came through, and that's all that counts.
It really did. I think Benji wasn't counting that to win the game. He was droning behind it. And if Tangent pulled SCVs, repaired the bunker, and then used the SCVs to engage roaches, he would have eventually cleared it up, but he might have taken 15, 16 SCV losses in the process. And that would have been a situation where Benji would have been in great shape. Even in that situation where he didn't get the full kill, because he was joining up, he was taking it third. He was really had a plan behind that.
Yeah,
as long as he got a good number of SCV kills.
Attack. Yeah, it was definitely not an all-in attack. And I mean, the reason it was so successful was because it was a triple CC into Hellion opening.
Oh, and the Marines jumped out of the bunker.
Well, yeah,
that definitely did not help the chance. Yeah. One thing to note: if you're a Marine and you see roaches coming at you, you want to actually get that bunker and start digging in deeper holes. You can even lower in the ground. You definitely don't want to jump out and try to handle those roaches man to man. I don't know how brave you're going to be, but there's a difference between bravery and then also just intelligence. There's a certain amount of bravery is good. A certain amount getting out of the bunkers, trying to fight the roaches hand to hand is probably a little bit on the too brave side of that.
Yeah, definitely. It was definitely not where the Marines should have been, I gotta say. And, I mean, it's a tough loss for Tangent. It's one of those that you really just wish you could have that game back and say, I wish I could have done something different. But it's done now, and Benji has taken 4 in a row. Pretty big deal.
NYU is down to their last player. What's the map we have actually here?
We got Metropolis.
Oh, GSL Metropolis, a great map to have this match point on. Of course, if NYU wins this, we're going to have one more map. If Benji can close it out, that'll be 5 in a row. NYU is really on the ropes here. Who is going to be their anchor player, their ace player? Which guy are they going to say, we're all down, but you've got to pull this one through for us, 2 wins in a row, please. And I bet they're discussing, saying, hey, which one of you guys has the best shot to knock this guy out? He's taking out 4 of us. We need to find an answer to him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if with a 3-0 start, you gotta be surprised that Columbia has now made a match point here first. 4 great wins in a row by Benji has really gotten the job done. And yeah, I mean, you said it all. NYU's in the hole. Really got to pull someone out of that hole.
They really have, and to talk about Benji, I mean, this guy, he likes his drones. Of course, we even saw that last game. He even said, "I built the spore cores to make sure DTs couldn't kill my drones," because of course DTs didn't really come into play. And not the last game, the one on Rocks on a Ship. DTs didn't come into play, but he's always looking out to protect those guys. He cares so much about them. The other unit that I've noticed he really likes, he likes the Roach. I mean, so many of these games, Roaches have been a key part of success. Of course, the Roach Queen 9 attack. Roach is a key part of that build. Using the Roaches to deflect the early 2-gate pressure on rocks on a ship, and then of course countering, doing some damage. And it's a great map name, Rocks on a Ship.
It's exactly what it is. I mean, it describes the map perfectly. It's Rocks on a Ship.
It really does. But Roach play was really key in that game as well, and of course in that last game, you can't say Roach play wasn't key there. I mean, those Roaches just single-handedly won the game. And he's making it happen with these Roaches, and of course his care of the drones. I don't think in any of the games he's played, he hasn't taken drone losses really in a significant amount. I mean, even when he lost his hatchery on Rocks on a Ship, he pulled all the drones out. Very, very, very. I can't even think of a spot where he actually lost a good number of drones. Always,
it's true.
Really on top of that.
Very careful with his drones. He's going to have to be careful once more here in our final match. We still don't know who NYU's player is, but I don't know what come tell us.
They've got to deliberate. I mean, this is the last time NYU can pick a player.
Yep.
They've already lost 4. This is their last chance, their last player pick.
Mona's back.
It looks like Mona's back with the results.
Does she know who the player is?
Player results. Pardon my misspeaking there.
Dabu.
Oh, it's going to be Dabu. This guy is a beast. I believe he was a former Grandmaster player. He's very, very, very good.
Apparently, he is an internet celebrity and extremely confident.
That is very good. Confidence is what you need. I mean, Dabu is if I was NYU and I'm like, who are we gonna put as our anchor player? Dabu is the guy to do.
I guess you know who he is then.
Yeah, he's definitely one. Probably. It's hard to tell. I mean, all these players are all good and so close. We've seen them all have chances to beat each other. I'm not sure if I'd say he's definitely the best player, but he's one of their most well-known and most successful players. And on Metropolis, this is an interesting map. I mean, it's Zerg can really lock it down in the late game, really isolate the movement. But of course, it is such a good map for the Mortal Sentry push. It's a fairly confined area. The Zerg has to walk a large distance to really get those flanks on you. So I actually really like Dawo's position, and I'd love to see him opt for that 2-base